write-ups of Galaxy of Film. I'm, of course, your host, Max. And this week, stepping up into the co-host role is none other than our man, Will. How are you doing, bro?
Hey man, I'm doing great. We're getting close to Halloween here. I just had a huge fucking holiday or Halloween banger party at my house. It was fun. It was awesome. Had a ton of people over. Everybody was in costumes. We had horror movies on the whole time.
Okay.
There were some people locked in watching Evil Dead Rise and
Ooh.
Alien
Yeah.
Romulus, and yeah, it was great. It was a good time.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
I'm in that Halloween spirit. And I'm glad to be here to talk about a couple of insane films.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, a quick thing before we keep diving in and
Yeah.
introducing everyone too. Will, I want to go ahead and congratulate you. For our listeners out there, this is obviously another Galaxy of Film Live episode. As you can tell by the title, it's not just any Galaxy of Film Live episode, but this, dude, is episode 201. This is our big special. If you haven't already, listen to last week's episode 200. We kind of go over the gist of that episode and why this one specifically is so special. But before we even dive into what that means for this company, dude, this is week 6 and the finale of Monster Mayhem here at Galaxy of Film, dude. So personally, Will, I want to congratulate you, man, because as we talked about before, awards bait has been like Jake's big thing bringing to the company, to the channel. But this was something you want to do seasonal that was kind of, I don't want to say on a smaller scale, but on a more focused scale to the main show. So congratulations to you, Will. You had a hell of an idea, and we've finally completed it with this episode, man. So congratulations, bro. Truly.
Yeah,
awesome.
and it's awesome. It's awesome that the finale of this kind of aligns with our big episode just in total. I mean, 201 is crazy.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad to be able to be a part of that and seeing it through, man. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And yeah, because I've mentioned it before, but it's like I was like, yeah, I wanted to bring to the table what I'm like really hyper fixated in.
Mm-hmm.
Jake has the whole awards bait thing going on. I was like, I love horror movies. I love monster movies. What if we did a little themed thing during that Halloween season? So yeah, and I think it worked out pretty well. Got to talk about some great movies.
Yeah, dude. It's been a blast doing it too. Not just great movies, but like things we've been dying to talk about for a hot minute. We covered Scream for the first week, then kind of diving into Versus week again, which is always a lot of fun with Alien vs. Predator and Freddy vs. Jason. Last week we talked about some of the Halloween sequels, which we haven't had a chance to discuss before. Halloween 2 and Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Then you took a week off, actually, kind of missed the episode, but we covered Jaws and Poltergeist finally, which Dakari had been giving me shit for years for not watching. Finally had a chance to watch those. And we had special guests on these episodes too, man. Oh, excuse me, I'm skipping. We also discussed Joker 2 and The Killing Joke for a Killer Clown episode, of course. The special guest stars, we had interviews with Lee Waddell and Jamie Kennedy that Naima did for the Scream episode. For the Halloween episode, we had the legendary Nick Castle, Michael Myers himself. The video interviews dropping later on Halloween Day, of course, to kind of really cap off Monster Mayhem. But if you listen to the podcast, you can hear the interview already. We interviewed Tommy Lee Wallace at Nightmare Weekend as well, the director of Halloween and It. But also we had for that Jaws episode, author Michael Smith come on, who was also an extra in Jaws 2. So we really had a deep connection with the Jaws franchise to kind of bring to life that episode, which was a lot of fun. But yeah, man, this is a lot of fucking fun, dude. And we're here talking about Terrifier 3 and Cannibal Holocaust this week. We got some very special guest stars who worked on Terrifier 3 that we'll kind of talk about later on. But of course, there's one last thing that we covered for this time too, with various other interviews on our channel that we've been dropping, like with Amy Donald, who plays Megan. We got Clint Howard coming out too, Christy Swanson, who's the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But dude, Naima and I got to interview. We got to interview David Howard Thornton himself, Art the Clown, which is crazy. So it's been a feat. It's been a hell of a time. It's been history, right? But here we are at the finale for this. And who knows, man? Next year we're gonna go even bigger and harder with it. So hopefully we get some more twisted, fucked up movies that come out next October for the celebration. But Monsters Mayhem has been a success in my eyes. But thankfully, as we're capping this off and starting off with episode 200, we aren't alone, man. Like I said, we got some special episode or guest stars coming on later to talk about Terrifier with us. But for the next 20 minutes or so, we're joined with some other individuals with us for a little bit. I want to go ahead and also introduce our other co-host for this episode, Naima Saeed. She'll be here with us for the rest of the episode. How are you doing, Naima?
Doing great. Happy to be here.
And you're in California right now, which is crazy.
I am. So it's what time is it over there?
7:41 currently.
Okay, so it's 4:41 over. It's actually bizarre, the time difference over here, but I'm just here, have some stuff going on. But everything's great. I mean, I cannot complain. California is beautiful. And I get to do my episode close to where our guests are, even though they're in another part.
Yeah, it'd be like that, though. It'd be like that. But regardless...
Okay, maybe we'll...
Regardless, I'm glad we get you on for this one, of course. We got some good shit coming on for this episode, like we mentioned, stuff that we've worked very hard to accomplish with Nightmare Weekend and everything we've been pushing through with GalaxyCon as well, too. So it'll be a fun time. But like I said, we're celebrating a bit, kind of relishing in 201 episodes, guys. And also joining us for this little bit of a celebration is none other than one of the very people I founded this company with, Dakari Holder. How are you doing, bro? How are you doing?
Oh, I'm a lot of things. I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm a lot of things, but one of them I can say is definitely good. I've been doing pretty good. It's my school's homecoming week just passed, so it was a lot going on with that. But as of right now, I'm still in my last semester of college, and I'm just trying to make sure everything is tied together before I get out of here.
Yeah,
but I've been okay. I've been doing as much as I possibly can.
I feel you on that, man. I feel you on that, dude. And also joining us with this little segment too, real quick, was one of our first ever guest stars back when. I mean, obviously, for a little bit of a history, because we are 201 episodes deep, I forget that probably a good chunk of our audience were not here from the beginning. And probably, I don't know, maybe they've listened to those episodes, maybe they haven't gone back to listen to them. But when we started this, it was myself as a host, we had Danilo Wyatt as a host as well, and Dakari too. And it was the three of us for a hot minute. And then shortly after, Dakari kind of stepped down as co-host, still coming on for guest appearances and for the music side of things, of course, too. And then later on, as we grew into a production company, Dakari came back full-time with us and has also co-hosted several times since. But, obviously Danilo's left, unfortunately, and we still got him around doing some stuff here and there behind the scenes. Little teaser at some point for you guys. But, there's one other person who's been here since almost the very beginning. And, of course, there is our man Curtis, who's joined us for this little bit of a celebration. How are you doing, brother?
Dude, I'm doing so well. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I actually fucked my back up this week. So if our listeners and our audience members, if you see me, doing some weird shit on camera this episode... Sorry, I'm really not trying. It's fucked right now. I'll tell you guys that story later.
Only the best here at yourself.
Yeah, but we can't afford insurance yet, so I'm currently gonna want to talk about what's the best right now.
Oh man!
But Curtis, I'm so happy we get you on for this little brief moment for the Celebrate 201. I believe your first episode on the podcast was episode 14, which is crazy because we still get you on here on a regular basis. That's almost 200 episodes of Curtis, dude. It's fucking wild.
Insane.
Crazy.
Dude, I've almost known you for about 5 years now. I know we talked about it before. Because we met in 2019 at Celebration.
We did. And you know what, Curtis? I made a post on Facebook, because I don't think a lot of you guys saw it because it was my personal Facebook. But if you follow me on social media, when I went to Chicago a few months ago, I did a whole video there. Just kind of shooting around the city with different lenses, kind of just being a tourist with it. But I made a post saying, you know what? Galaxy of Film may have been born in Fayetteville, but it was basically conceived in Chicago. And that was when I met Danilo and yourself at Star Wars Celebration Chicago 2019.
I believe we were waiting in line for pictures for the Clone Wars cast.
Yes, we were actually. You're right, dude. Oh my god. And funny enough, Curtis, because of that meeting, I keep the Celebration mug on my desk at all times from that year.
Hell yeah. I still have the day when they were showing the episode 9 trailer, I still have the McDonald's special edition Celebration box.
Oh.
that Abrams bought everybody in line.
I forgot about that. I didn't get into the panel for it, you lucky bastard.
I got into that one and the Mandalorian one. I was like, okay, cool.
I got for Mando. I did get into that panel. That was
Dude,
a
it was
time
insane.
too. And for whatever reason, I didn't know Carl Weathers was in the Mandalorian at that point. So that was like a cold reveal for me. And him just coming out like, I want you! You know, the Apollo quote was just legendary, man.
So
my God. Dude, I can't believe we're at this point. Like, Dakari, when we were conceptualizing Galaxy of Film, like, this was weird. I hit you up on Instagram. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't know who the hell you were. Like, I didn't even know you lived in Fayetteville for a hot minute, dude. Like, we were just random mutuals. Like, yo, you want to start a podcast? We're doing this. Had to make sure you weren't a serial killer, so we went and hung out and went to an autograph signing at first with Mark Dodson, with my buddy Colin. Yeah, dude. The rest has been kind of history. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, I know there's a clear distinction with people who are affiliated with Galaxy of Film, whether they're a team member or a family member. You know, but like, dude, like, I consider all you guys fucking family at this point. It's really crazy how a couple random DMs talking shit about movies have truly changed my life for the better. Like, absolutely mind-blowing, man. I never thought we'd be here almost 4 years later. Well, 4 years as time of conceptualizing, really, kind of going through with this part. Obviously, our anniversary for 4 years will hit this December, I think the 22nd specifically. But regardless, man, 201 episodes. 201 is crazy. For episode 100, we celebrated talking about our top 10 favorite films of all time. And for this one, it's just a little funky. I got some fucked up movies to talk about, which is always great.
Man, I remember us recording that top 10 films episode almost like yesterday, man.
I bet you do. And no one here was in the episode but you and I.
No, bro.
The screaming match you and Danilo got into prior is legendary. I love that audio recording. Dakari, big man, I'll never live it down.
I still have it in my phone too, man. That's... Yeah, that'll go down in history for sure.
The real question is, has any of your movies changed from last year to this year?
Ooh, that's a wonderful question. Has it?
You know,
like all time?
Yeah, from our 100 episode.
What you did last time, is it the same thing? Top 10.
You know, for me, I think it is. However, every time I rewatch it, I love it more and more. And that's mid-90s, the A24 Jonah Hill film. That always makes its way up further and further upon every rewatch for some reason. Like, it is one of the biggest influences for me, one of my favorite coming-of-age stories. I love that movie to death. I think if I were to make any change, it would just be swapping that out with maybe Toy Story 2. But, like, Toy Story 2 has the edge of nostalgia for me, you know? Truly. But what about you, Dakari? What about you?
Yeah, Naima, to definitely answer your question, it's changed since the release of Dune Part 2.
Okay, dude. Jesus fucking Christ, Dakari.
No, hey, dude, I'm unapologetically, like, there's no shame here. Like, that's a movie I hold close to my heart. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
I haven't had a theater experience like that since fucking... I don't even know. Like, that movie really just shifted my perspective on how sci-fi films are made. And not even just sci-fi films, but how blockbuster films are made. Contemporary blockbusters now. You know? That film made its way up to number 4 on my list. I still have Uncut Gems on there. I still have Fury Road. I still have New Hope. I still have Raiders, Coming to America, 36 Chambers, Seven Samurai, Metropolis, and The Last Dragon will always be my favorite film of all time. I don't think that's going to change. But Dune Part 2 made it into my, like, top 5.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, I know. And it sucks that you fucking hate that movie. I don't understand why.
Nothing will ever top it for me, Dakari. As we were sitting with Brendan Wayne, the Mandalorian himself, after your crotch is directly in this man's fucking face. And as we're talking shit about Dune, he also says it fucking sucks. And I love that.
Damn, bro.
Nah,
I'm just gonna slide past the cropped in the face of.
Yeah, you had to be there.
Listen, man, I was probably trying to set up my mic or something. That was not intentional.
But yeah, nothing will top that for me, dude. I love that fucking moment. And yeah, man, oh fuck, dude. I don't know. You know, you've done video essays on the show, Dakari, on the channel, and Brandon put his first one out about a month or two ago. There's a video essay I'm gonna make next year, and it's movies I fell asleep to, and Dune will be on that list. Because I fucking hate that movie to death. Oh my god.
Which one? Part 1 or part 2?
Part 2. I like part 1.
Okay.
I think part 2 is just a slog fest, man.
Part 1 is just as slow as part 2.
I guess.
It's literally just slow.
It's way slower.
It's literally just as slow as part 2.
I was at least more interested, man. I was at least more interested. You know?
I don't know.
I don't want to talk more Dune. I just think I don't like Dune, to be honest with you. I think that's just it. It's just not my universe, man. I can give in to all the corny bullshit Doctor Who will throw at me up until like the end of Capaldi when the writers switch. But yeah, Dune I can't get into. I just can't. You know.
That's fair.
Well, I was disappointed. I didn't hear fucking Toto when I got on the Sandworm, man. Like,
oh god. No.
That's the best part of that Lynch one, dude. The best part. I'll stand by that till I die.
Okay, at least you said that's the best part.
Popcorn bucket. Except for the popcorn bucket.
Iconic popcorn bucket. You can't.
No, easily iconic.
Oh my god. Curtis, what about you, man? What are some of your favorite movies? I know you weren't on that episode because it was just Galaxy Film family members. Let's hear about some of your favorite movies real quick, or your favorite episodes you've been on for the hell of it too, that we've talked about.
Oh, sure.
We've talked about some high and lows here.
So obviously, I think my first episode on, we talked about the Snyder Cut for Justice League.
Yeah, and it was as long as the fucking movie.
Our first two-parter.
Yeah, our only two-parter.
Oh yeah. I do not remember what episode it was on, but I always remember you asked Danilo to go to Stream of the Week. He says something about a movie. He then just goes on a fucking tangent for like 5 minutes and then just disappears.
Oh, it was
for
Suicide
the entire
Squad.
Episode. That's what it was. And he's just gone.
Man.
I'm like, okay, I guess we'll finish it.
Yeah, he got so high, he just disappeared in the break section.
It was insane. But favorite movies, it's like, I've been thinking about that a lot recently, is I don't really have I have a top 3.
Okay.
And it's The Lighthouse from 2019, I believe.
Ooh. Oh, that's a masterpiece.
I love that movie. And then 1 and 2 go back and forth. Right now I have it as number 2 is the original 12 Angry Men.
Okay, the original. Okay.
Okay.
That movie is the characters in that movie is, I think, perfection. There's like the way they had to shoot that, the one set they had, I think is just brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I think my favorite movie of all time is probably Shawshank Redemption.
Really?
I still have yet to see that. I see
it every time, and the feelings I have for it are the same every time. I'm like, I can rewatch that movie literally so many times and not get bored with it. I think it's a fantastic story. It's crazy that it's a Stephen King story that takes a break from like writing horror movies to like make Shawshank, and then he makes Green Mile, which is another fantastic movie.
Yeah, they go hand in hand too, in my opinion.
It really does. Everything about Shawshank, I think, is damn near perfect in a sense.
Yeah.
You
can't forget the gorgeous Drew Struzan artwork for it too.
Oh my god, that's so good.
I've never seen Shawshank Redemption, man.
Legit, honestly, it kind of changes my life a bit. The way the messages in that movie talks to you is like kind of insane.
Yeah.
I'm actually thinking about getting a tattoo for that movie.
Oh really?
The quote, "Get busy living or get busy dying."
Oh, I thought you were gonna. You know, when Curtis makes his final appearance on Galaxy of Film, whenever, and I hope that never happens, but one day, inevitably, when we all get ready to die or whatever, and in 70 years, when I keep dragging his ass out for this show, he's gonna just write "Curtis was here" on the top of the studio. It's gonna be crazy.
Yep. I'm gonna turn on the camera. I'm gonna be fucking like, ugh.
That's gonna be great.
Yeah, dude. Suzy Shawshank is. If you've never seen it, give it a shot. It's a mind-blowing 2 hours of your time.
I'm definitely gonna watch it as soon as I can. I've heard nothing but great things.
It's phenomenal, in my opinion.
Yeah. Any other highlighted moments for the past 200 episodes for you, man? Besides Danilo just getting way too high and disappearing.
No, man. I think just every time we just get into stuff, I'm super happy about it. I don't think we've had a bad episode where we've been on. I think we've always had very intelligent chats about things. I like how the different opinions we always have. Because even like when we did the Star Wars movies, we all had various different opinions on some of the movies.
Yeah, that's true too. That is very true.
And as being Star Wars fans, I think we handled it in a better way than most people do.
Oh yeah.
But no.
Oh yeah.
But no, just every time we chat about stuff, I'm super excited for it. I just really like being on the show. I'm very appreciative that you keep allowing me back on to sometimes ramble for like 10 minutes about random shit. But no, it's good. I think it's a testament to you also just being a good enough host.
Oh, thank you,
to allow different people on the kind of shit. Yeah, dude, no problem, man.
Dude,
also,
it's crazy. It truly is. And real quick, sorry, Dakari, but like the testing as well, you mentioned of like the positive space we've had for Star Wars specifically. I agree to that, Curtis. Something I take pride in. Like, it's a super toxic fandom. I love Star Wars to death. Clearly, I got it on my body, for Christ's sakes, you know?
Right.
But like, oh my God. Like, the Acolyte hate, we talked about it. We had a mature conversation about the Acolyte, you know?
Yeah.
We
did. We had that with...
I haven't even seen that.
We did that with Bad Batch. We've done it for a bunch of the side stuff to where we're not always, like, super honest. Like, some of the stuff we're not, like, super, like, hype about.
Yeah, like,
but I feel like we've never... I think we've always taken pride in being like, hey, especially for some of the actors, like, hey, don't hate them. The writing for them is bad, and that's why we don't like it. It's never the actor's fault, and I think we do that very well every time. I'm super happy we never go to that realm of toxicity.
We always have.
We'll make fun of stupid shit. Oh, of course.
Yeah,
but we're never like allowing like the biases of like what we want to do like cloud our judgment for that kind of stuff. So I'm really happy that like we have a small part in like trying to make the fandom a little bit better.
Yeah, I feel you. Naeem is over here struggling. I love it. She's just like,
I see that. I'm like, what the hell?
Only in California.
Only in California. There you go. There you go.
I was gonna say, speaking of Star Wars, I was able to get this really cool thing sometime like late last month.
Okay.
Check this out.
Oh, is that the despecialized editions?
Ooh.
This is more than just despecialized. These are like raw HD 2K scans of the original trilogy.
Oh, nice.
Ooh,
That's awesome.
Okay.
So
nice.
these are like, this is Grindhouse. So this is dense, raw, 35mm scans of the films.
Okay, so the mouse is coming after you. All right.
Yeah,
so
I know.
for announcing that on episode 201.
Yeah. So the
Lucasfilm satellite is got you, man.
Oh, we're gonna fucking get you.
Hey, they don't know where this came from. So, good luck with that. But the first film is in better shape than I would say The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, but it's still great to have these in this form. I mean, who would have thought that we would be able to see these movies the way they were intended to actually be seen in this form?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
I feel on that, dude. I feel on that.
Yeah.
We got plenty of more Star Wars to talk about as we go into next year, too. We've been working on organizing a really special episode for Return of the Jedi. You know, we were on a roll of knocking Star Wars out, I feel like, and then we had the chance to up the ante with these guest stars, and I'm so thankful for it. But damn, I wish we could go through them quicker a little bit, man. I really do. So, like, now that we're at a point where it's like, you know what? I want to make sure it's worth the wait for everybody. We got to go hard. You know, for A New Hope, we had Craig Miller, who worked on A New Hope as director of fan relations for Lucasfilm. For Empire, we had, like I said, Brendan Wayne, the Mandalorian himself, come on and talk about that. For Return of the Jedi, we got some cool stuff coming next year for it. We did skip around a bit and talk about the Ewok movies with Eric Walker, who's the original Mace, of course.
That was a great experience, too, by the way. That was a great episode.
Wasn't it, man? Like, it's always fun. Like, I take pride in all the cool shit we get to do with this show. I really do. You know, it's only the best Your Galaxy film, dude. Only the best. But
I need to put that on a shirt.
I need to, man. I need to. That is.
Oh, that would be a great shirt.
Whenever we do merch, that is going to be the first shirt we have besides just the logo. That is
only the best here, and then the logo.
Yeah.
Yep. And then you're gonna have that shirt, and then you're gonna have dummy ass shirt, and it's gonna be a whole merch going on.
Oh my god. No.
You gotta have a fuck Jared Leto shirt too.
Just wait. I'm gonna make that shirt.
I know. Before we get ready to stop this celebration real quick and start moving on to our Terrifier talk in a little bit, a couple announcements for you guys too. Kind of just going on to what we have coming up soon for Galaxy of Film overall. So you may notice that one person in this episode who I really want to be here is not here, and it's Brandon Messina. Of course, you guys are very familiar with Brandon. He's been here for 2+ years at this point, but like guest starring for about 3 even. It's crazy. Co-creator of LFG, one of our editors here. Brandon is actually putting on the finishing edits for our next short film, Pretty Hurts, which is dropping this week. Directed by myself, written, produced, and starring Naima over here as well. Yes. So yeah, Naima, would you like to take the floor for a second and talk about Pretty Hurts? Not spoiling it, of course, but go for it.
I think me and Will, we discussed it on our Screen podcast a little bit, right?
Yes.
So let's back up. So when I first became a family member with Galaxy of Film, I had already written these 5 scripts that I really wanted to get done, kind of like a 5 script in a week type of thing. Some were older ones I just, revamped. And then as soon as I became a family member, I pitched them all to Max, and he goes, we'll shoot all of them. I went. So the first one on the list was Pretty Hurts, which not a lot of people know, but I actually wrote that back in 2020 and shot it in 2020. And obviously I was a student in college. It was pretty much like a student film. And I brought it back, revamped it a little bit. And I said, I really want to give it another go, but more professional, so each step is like a stepping stone. So it was kind of nostalgic to bring back Pretty Hurts, which is a horror film that took a little bit of inspiration from Identity and a little bit of my own personal growing up experience, and I kind of meshed an idea together without spoiling anything. I won't say any more, but basically 4 girls wake up in a house that they do not know where they are, and they are at this very sinister like tea party, basically trying to puzzle together what's going on. It's a very absurdist type of piece. It has absurdist elements to it, but I have to leave it there because I will spoil it. But it's one of my babies, and I'm really proud to see how far we've come with that. And then after that, we were able to shoot Femme Fatale, and we got plenty more things to come. But it was an amazing time on set, and I was up for 24 hours that day. So
oh my god,
that
is the longest we've been on a set for, which is crazy. Yeah,
and I got to wear a purple wig, and it was awesome, and I got to revive my role. So I was happy.
Yeah, it's my great. First time doing horror, which is kind of crazy. I know Will, you put out The Artist 1996 earlier this year, which is analog horror, and it's the very first thing that's been done of horror on a Galaxy of Film. Like Helena's Curse, Danilo considered it horror, more like personal psychological horror than actual horror, creature or anything like that. But yeah, this is the first thing I've directed or been involved with that involves horror, which is really cool.
Yay! And also, it's my filmmaking debut with Galaxy of Film, so I hope you guys like it when you see it at the showcase in December.
That is another thing as well. I believe Shamim accidentally introduced that a little too early, but I can go ahead and properly announce it in this episode. December 16th here in Raleigh, North Carolina. If you're in this area, come through. We'll have tickets posted on our social media soon because it'll be a ticketed event, unlike the cameo we had going on last year, or at the cameo, excuse me. But at the Regal in North Hills, we'll be doing our next Galaxy of Film showcase. And we'll be shooting a whole new lineup of films featuring stuff I've shot and directed, and stuff Naeem has produced, stuff Will and Jake have directed, and the big thing that I'm so fucking excited for that is debuting of this one, the big premiere, just like our last showcase premiere, Goonies in Agony. This is the premiere for Dakari's directorial debut, Man of the House. So Dakari, obviously we're shooting this in a couple weeks, getting it all done. I'm so excited. We're on grind time, just like we were with Goonies for it. Can you tell us a little bit about this officially without spoiling anything real quick?
Yeah, I'm not gonna give too much away story wise, but just know that this is definitely like I would say a chamber piece, but it's a drama with a hint of action.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's all
Very
I'll say.
nice.
Short,
That's
sweet, and
all
to
I'll
the
say.
point.
What was that?
I said short, sweet, and to the point. I
Yeah.
wish I learned how to talk like that.
There you go. There you go. I'm
That's
excited
it,
for it,
man.
dude. Like out of everyone who's been a Galaxy of Film, I've told you this behind the scenes 100 times, dude. I'm so damn excited to see you direct and to step up behind a camera finally, dude. I'm
I'm
thrilled.
excited too, man.
So it'll be a
I'm
great
looking
time.
forward to this.
I'm producing this. We got our buddies from Opal 99 also coming in to help with this one too. Carter is DPing this, who also DP'd another film Naeem and I worked on, Femme Fatale, which is coming out as well very soon.
Awesome.
Likely that film would be dropping in December for you guys. And ideally, we will have that release alongside the showcase. So you can watch Femme Fatale both in person or at home if you can't make it. So stay tuned for details on that coming out. It'll be really awesome. Will, you want to go ahead and give us some details on a little film you guys just dropped, or getting ready to drop, excuse me. You dropped it in our DMs, which I'm so excited for, man. Tell us a little bit about it.
So this was a really awesome idea that me, Jake, and everybody else working with at Mayhem came together with. It's a very simple idea. It's just called Getting Real with Zippy. And it's about Jake, who plays this radio talk show host called Zippy. And he's going through a really terrible divorce. And he won't shut up about it live on air. So that's the whole thing. It's really funny. Jake is incredible in it. And yeah, I can't wait to get that one out there. I'm also currently just about to finish writing my newest script, which will also be for a new horror film, which we are looking to get done next, hopefully in time for the showcase.
Ooh,
Yeah,
okay.
That's the current plan right now. Yeah.
So is this going to be analog horror or actually?
This is going to be, live action.
Okay.
Yep. Mhm.
Okay. I love it, man. I love it.
Mhm.
I'm
That's cool,
pumped.
man. That's
God.
cool.
We got some good shit. And of course, Jake isn't here for this episode, for this little bit of a celebration. However, he just dropped a new episode of Awards Bait this week, going strong with season 2. I'm talking about the Dune 2 situation, funny enough, since Dakari had to bring up that monstrosity earlier.
All right.
Oh, you know what I should have done during the Empire episode, Dakari? I should have burned the Dune poster I had sitting next to me. Right on camera.
Man,
That's what I should have done.
You still have yet to send me that.
Because you're going to come over here and get it. I'm not wasting shipping on that shit.
You're right. That's a good point.
Only the best here, man. Only the best. But we got all that going on. We got some cool podcast stuff going on rest of the year, too, and going on to next year. Brandon's going strong with LFG as he keeps working on these films, of course. And, dude, we got more interviews dropping soon from Nightmare Weekend, from more stuff from GalaxyCon, too. We have a lot, dude. It's just a lot. And honestly, on paper, it looks super overwhelming. But, last year, man, I told everyone after the cameo, I had a little meeting at my house. And after that meeting, I was like, this is our year. This is the year where we're going to make these numbers and we're going to make all these accomplishments reality. And so far, we've been able to do every single one of them. So I'm proud of how far we've come along with this. It's been a crazy journey. And of course, we haven't been alone. And someone, again, as I mentioned earlier, he's been here for almost 200 episodes, Curtis. I know you're starting your own podcast. And you've got some stuff going off that too. Tell us a little bit what's in store for you, my good sir.
Yeah, so me and a buddy, Nick of mine, we're starting a podcast called Code Zero. Pretty much we talk about a lot of Japanese anime, their influences on Western media, and a lot of influences they had on Western cartoons specifically. We're doing one, once we get started, we're going to be tackling the Avatar The Last Airbender show, and how it influences a lot from Japanese anime styles, the storytelling, how it influences a lot more of a grown-up storytelling for children than they're used to from like Nickelodeon and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Update on that since last time I was on. We've settled the dispute. Our name is ours now, so we finally have that all taken care of.
There we go. Say that name with pride, man. Say that name with pride.
Yes, sir. It's Code Zero. We're working on getting an artist once they're done with our commission, getting all that set up, and then hopefully before the end of the year, get our first couple episodes up and get all that started.
Very nice. I can't wait, man. I can't wait. I'm so happy with the community we've been able to build. Like, something that several cast and crew members have come up to me and said after set. And most recently, Wayne Heiser on set Femme Fatale, actually, who is also in Novex as the hobo. He came up to me and he says, like, you know what, Max? Like, you did it again. Like, you've got a really good team of people here. And that's something I take a lot of pride in, because not only on the film side have we been able to have some awesome souls and creative minds come in, but like on the podcast side too, dude. And I take such pride in them. It's been such an honor and a blessing to have met everyone we've had on this show, every show that we've been on individually or collectively as well. Like, it's just been an awesome community, you know. So I'm really proud, Curtis, that you took that extra step, because you've been talking about wanting to do a podcast since you came on the first time.
Like, it's been crazy. A while, yeah.
You know. So very proud of that, and I cannot wait for all of that to come to fruition and to see the success of that show going forward too, man. Very excited for you.
Appreciate you, bud. Very excited.
Like I do mention, we are going to be talking about Terrifier 3 and Cannibal Holocaust. We got two of our special guest stars are joining us very soon. However, we do have one of our guest stars here already. I want to go ahead and introduce Mr. Ryan Ward. How are you doing, sir? I believe it's loading for our audio listeners.
Yeah,
there we go.
It's going.
Hey, welcome to Galaxy of Film. How you doing, Ryan?
Pretty good. How you all doing?
Doing great, man. I'm glad to get you on for this episode. We've been talking about this a little bit back and forth the past couple of days. It's insane how we've been able to kind of come together, like we mentioned, and bring you into this one as well. So officially, welcome to the show. Welcome to our 201st episode here at Galaxy of Film. It'll be a damn good time, man. It'll be a damn good time. But
yeah, sounds good.
Hell yeah. Taking a look at the chat real quick before we start talking about news and some Terrifier stuff. Let's see, greatest movie ever. I'm assuming this person's not talking about Dune Part 2. That's all I gotta say.
All right.
I'm gonna smack you when I see this December, man.
We get it. You don't like Dune Part 2. We get it.
Only the best here. Mm-hmm. And we got someone else saying hello. How's it going, guys? Welcome in. Got another highs here as well. I believe we'll probably have Ken Dog in the chat, knowing him. What a crazy guy.
Hey.
Yeah. Oh, but Ryan, do us a little bit of a favor real quick, my good sir. Tell us a little bit about yourself, because you actually were involved with Terrifier 3. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your work and involvement.
Yeah, actually, so funny enough, I mean, you know, whenever he gets on here, but Christian was the first shop that I started working at when I came out to LA to be a makeup artist. And I ended up, a mutual friend of mine was working there. They needed some help. I interviewed there, which started, I think I was working for him for about 8 years.
Okay.
And then my wife and I kind of branched off, started doing our own thing. And then in January, he called me and he said, hey, we've got a show going on. It's in New York. I'm from New York originally. He's like, you're an East Coast guy. I think you might enjoy it. It's like 2 months. It's a lot of blood gags and a lot of makeups and stuff. And I said, yeah, that sounds pretty good. What is it? And he goes, it's Terrifier 3. And I said, I'm in.
Wow.
But I mean, I basically grew up in a video store. My dad and my grandfather owned a mom and pop video shop for 30 years. So, I grew up on everything. It was just kind of like, what's the coolest box art here? That's what I'm going to watch today, kind of a thing,
That's awesome.
Wow.
That shifted and led into doing this, because it was just, I was so, obviously I knew it wasn't real from a young age, but it was so cool. It looked so real to me. I was like, I got to know, how they do this. And then I actually attended the Tom Savini makeup school in like 2007, I think it was.
Okay.
Like 2 years later, moved out here, and then, that's it. It's just been kind of a snowball ever since then of cool stuff. And, I've worked with a lot of great people. I will say, like, right off the bat, honestly, the crew for Terrifier, the entire crew, is the best crew I think I've ever gotten a chance to work with. Like, the the level of just passion from everybody to make it like as good as it can be, and facilitate what we all feel is Damien's vision. Really, it was just, you don't see a lot of that on a lot of other sets. A lot of people are kind of looking at things like it's a job, it's a check.
Sure.
But I really just want to say, like, that level of passion and the level of care from everyone on that crew really was pretty great. It was really touching in a way, so that was one of the really cool takeaways from that.
That's beautiful. I love hearing that. Honestly,
Awesome.
we've had a chance, Naima and I, and real quick, just to catch you up on who is who, because I know this is your first time as well. I'm Max, obviously the host of Galaxy of Film. We have Will over here as well. If you want to raise your hand, Will, thank you. Will has been co-hosting the last several episodes to our Monster Mayhem special we're doing for Halloween season. We have one of our producers, Naima Saeed, over here, who attended Nightmare Weekend with us. We were doing interviews together over there. And then we have Dakari, who's also part of Galaxy of Film from the very beginning, and is a musician here and a filmmaker with us too. And Curtis is just one of our longtime guests. But yeah, when Naima and I were at Nightmare Weekend, it's opening weekend for the film. We had a chance to sit down with David, interview him, speak with him about the film, even off air for probably 20 minutes or so. Our conversation with him was longer than the interview itself. And of course we met up. Yeah, exactly. And then I had a chance to go ahead and meet up with Heather as well, who I'm hoping was able to join this episode. She did email me about a minute or two ago. She did not get the time zone right, so she's hoping she can hop in maybe later on. So we'll see if we can wiggle her in still too. But having a chance to talk with both David and Heather and get their perspectives and hear a little bit of their input and what this means to them, even after the project's all wrapped done and pushed out and released, it is so warming and rewarding as a viewer and as a fan of the franchise and as a fellow filmmaker. I can't stress enough, as someone who has also been pushing his own independent films and pushing this production company, the work and the craftsmanships you guys have put into, Terrifier 3 specifically, but the whole franchise of Terrifier too. Hats off to all of you, truly. And we're all very proud of the work that went into that film. It's incredible. And speak of the devil, it looks like Heather just joined in right now. Hello, welcome to Galaxy of Film.
Hello. Hey, sorry.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you guys. Sorry, I was late.
No, you're good. By all means, glad you could make it. Let me go ahead and adjust this overlay.
Good.
So way we can fit everyone in. And there we go as well.
Oh, Lord.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Get this adjusted.
We were just talking about how awesome you and David are.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
No.
How inspiring, Same as always.
Well, thank you. It was lovely meeting you guys at the con.
Absolutely. I'm glad to get you on here as well. And I believe Christian just joined too, if I'm not mistaken. It just says Mr. Body, so I'm assuming that is him.
Yeah,
But while we're waiting for the camera to load for Christian, though, Heather, go ahead and introduce yourself to us if you wouldn't mind. Tell our audience a little about yourself and your work with Terrifier, if you don't mind.
Hi, I'm Heather Albert. I did on-set makeup for Terrifier 3. Most specifically, I did a lot of prosthetic work, specifically David Howard Thornton in the Art of the Clown makeup.
Nice. Very awesome. And also, while we were at Nightmare Weekend, we had the chance to kind of go ahead and do this really cool photo op with David Howard Thornton as Art the Clown. So we got to see your work in person, which is absolutely incredible too. And I got to say, Naima, when you and I were interviewing Nick Castle a few months ago this past summer, I was telling Nick about you scared me absolutely shitless as a kid. It's so surreal being here with you right now because you were the horror icon that frightened me as a child. As an adult, seeing him as Art the Clown in person was the freakiest shit in the world, I gotta admit. So
oh my god,
that's off to you for that.
Jeez.
There we go.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
No, you're good. By all means. Welcome, Christian. How are you doing?
See, I use Discord all the time, so.
The best, right?
Doing great.
Only the best.
Beautiful. Glad to get you guys all in here talking about some Terrifier with us. Christian, officially welcome to Galaxy of Film as well. If you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself and your studio as well, too, if you don't mind.
Oh, well, I Christian Tinsley. I have a studio called Tinsley Studio. We do makeup effects for film and television. I think we're going on. Tinsley Transfers is now 25 years.
Oh,
so,
wow. Congratulations.
Yeah. And I've been doing this for almost 30 years. So having a good time, still doing it, as long as the business stays alive here in California. But yeah, no, that's it. And obviously we're here for Terrifier 3. We got Ryan and Heather there, who amazing talent.
Yeah. I love it. God, this is awesome, dude. And I was telling Ryan earlier too, before you and Heather had a chance to join, like seeing the amount of love and passion and the hard work that went into that film. Hats off to all of you, truly. As independent filmmakers ourselves, like we are just so proud of everything you guys accomplished with that. And officially, as of I believe yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, congratulations on that being the most successful unrated film of all time, which is crazy.
It's nuts, man. That is crazy.
It's nuts, man. It's absolutely fucking nuts.
No, so proud of Damien there. He's got quite the, we have some side bets going on. Damien and Phil, the producer, and everybody. And so I'm glad to see that I'm on the way to winning.
Oh, here we go.
Oh yeah.
Love it. Okay. So I believe we can go ahead and start diving into our news segment real quick for our listeners. Of course, this is a Galaxy of Film Live episode, so if you're listening to this on the audio platforms, this is obviously a couple days after we've done this live, so feel free to skip around if you need to. This is a little bit formatted differently than how we do it on live. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick little break for those audio listeners. We're going to go over our Stream of the Week brought to you by Tyler this week. But before we get to that too, if you're familiar with our YouTube channel and our website, we did interview David Howard Thornton himself, Art the Clown. We're going to go ahead and go over that interview for you guys right about now. And if you're here on the live stream, you're going to be really disappointed because you got to watch that afterwards. So continuing on, though, talking about news. And Curtis and Dakari, I want you guys to stick around for this, too, just because it's brief for news. Sure. And we'll kind of get you guys out. So I don't want to spoil Terrifier for either of you.
I haven't seen either one.
Yeah, dude, Jesus Christ. You're in for a show, Dakari.
No.
Sorry, Dakari.
Oh my god. It's episode 201. I don't think I've told this story to anybody, so I'll mention it now. After the last film showcase, after the cameo, we go back to my place like a day or so later. And I'm chilling. I'm hanging out with B Money and Dakari. We're at the house. We're all smoking, hanging out. Brandon can't hang. He can't hang, dude. He fell asleep watching Alvin the Chipmunks on DVD. It was crazy. And that was after you guys got done watching Pulp Fiction, and it was his first time watching Pulp Fiction for some reason. I don't know how you're a film editor and you've never seen Pulp Fiction, but I love him anyways, man. But what was crazy, you and I were stoned as hell that night, and I introduced you to an incredible Korean film called Old Boy. And once we get to the twist in
You've never seen Old Boy?
Wow.
I haven't seen it up until that point.
Yeah, this is my second time we watched it.
It was my first time watching Old Boy. I'm still fucked up by it to this day. There's nothing.
And you were high when you watched the first time too.
Oh,
I was definitely intoxicated. I was definitely fucked up.
Oh my god.
When we get to the moment, when we get to the twist, I shit you not, it is 4 a.m. Dakari stands up off of my couch and just like Super Saiyan screams in my living room at the top of his lungs, waking up my girlfriend, my roommate, my neighbor, everybody, dude. It was just the most incredible reaction ever. I imagine that's how Brendan Wayne felt when he saw Empire Strikes Back opening night, Dakari. I imagine.
Confession, I still have not seen Old Boy, but it's like Planet of the Apes. Like everybody knows the ending of that movie, unfortunately. So I've been spoiled. I've never like gone out of my way to go see it because of that. But I hear it's a fantastic movie. I always see these clips from it, and it looks so fantastic.
It's
just don't pull it to car and watch it.
Yes.
It's a must see. Yes. It is a must see.
Only the best here at Galaxy of Film, dude. But let's talk news real quick before we start talking about Terrifier 3 and Cannibal Holocaust. Dakari, this is kind of weird. We haven't talked about any of these movies before on the podcast, but Jumanji, we're getting another one, which people are saying it's Jumanji 3. I don't know why the hell we're forgetting that Robin Williams had a Jumanji movie all of a sudden. That's really weird. I do like the sequels for Jumanji. That first sequel was pretty solid when it introduced everybody, and I think the second one, with all the whole ensemble cast returning, it was a smart idea to have them kind of play different characters with each other. A third one, I have no clue if it's going to be a continuation of that. Are we going to see a new ensemble cast come forward? Obviously, kind of Jack Black took a break after Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, Jumanji: The Next Level, and then now he's kind of returning back with the Mario movie, Borderlands, Minecraft. So I'm hoping we at least get Jack Black back in this thing. What are your thoughts on another Jumanji movie?
Okay, I've only seen the first of the new trilogy. I haven't, at least I don't think I've seen the second, but I remember seeing the first of the trilogy when it came out in theaters, and I was impressed by it. I thought it was pretty decent and actually a clever way to do a reboot for a specific franchise like Jumanji. Because if people were considering doing a reboot of Jumanji, we all know the original had Robin Williams in it and had a completely different story. How are they going to do that again? And they just did it in a modern way, and it was very approachable, and I believe people definitely were taken away by it. It's very successful. We got 2 other movies now. Yeah, I mean, it's cool. I just have to watch the second one. Well, the third one. Technically, it's the third one if you count the Robin Williams Jumanji. Yeah, I'm not mad at it at all. I think that'll be cool.
Okay, I'm here for it, dude. I'm here for it. What about you, Will? Did you watch the other Jumanji films? Or are you gonna watch this next one?
I've only ever seen the original Robin Williams one, like when I was a kid, and I barely remember it. I never got into like the new ones because it just looked like another generic The Rock movie, Yeah. So I wasn't. I've heard that they're fun, that they're entertaining, but yeah, I haven't really gotten around to watching those. But yeah, maybe I will at some point.
I check them out, dude. They're fun. Like it takes the board game aspect and puts into a video game thing. So I like it. Right. It's half of a reboot kind of thing, still a sequel. Yeah, I don't know. I appreciate that first one at least. That first reboot for sure. Naima, what about you? I don't think we've talked any Jack Black with you on the podcast before.
Dude, we haven't. No, we haven't. Damn, that's kind of sad.
Yeah.
But obviously, I've seen the first Jumanji. I think everyone in America has seen the first Jumanji. I think that's one of those coming of age, growing up. You watched it. At least our generation. I didn't even know there was more movies. I can't even lie to you.
Wow.
I did not. And I don't really think. Sometimes when you watch movies, it's always the first kind of is all you really need to see, and the rest are just kind of fun adaptations or sequels or reboots. But I've also just come to a point where I'm kind of really fed up with reboots, fed up with the concept of reboots, the franchise, the money aspect of reboots, that I just don't even want to give it the time of day. I'd rather see something more authentic.
No, I feel you. I do still keep that Robin Williams signature right by the desk for little motivation stuff. Gotta love Robin for sure.
Yeah, got to rest
in peace, man. Curtis.
So
go ahead, Dakari. Go ahead.
I was gonna ask Naomi a question. So with that being said, you're not liking the concept of reboots. That means you haven't seen the Batman, correct?
Batman reboot, and I will say the one with Robert Pattinson.
Right? Yeah.
Should have been rated R. It would have been really good if it was rated R.
I agree.
Missed out on. Don't even get me started. It was beautiful. He honestly is not a bad interpretation of Batman, but by censoring yourself in that movie, I could talk about that for days. That is what ruined it for me. If it went the way it was supposed to, it could have been very successful and a fun watch.
You're right about that. That's literally the only issue that with more rewatches that I have with the Batman is that this movie should have obviously been rated R.
Yeah, but that's the industry. Reboots make money. That's how it is, and it's a shame. It's a shame because most of the time we don't need a reboot. Or ruins the classic or the original of what has already been out there.
We're gonna have to get you on, Naima, for the Batman Part 2. Honestly.
Oh, I can't wait for that though. I cannot.
We don't need any more reboots, but we do need 3 more Terrifier movies. I'm gonna be there opening weekend. Exactly. Yeah, these are original films. I want to see an infinite number of them.
I've heard in the woodworks that there's only one more Terrifier movie, and it takes place in space. So I'm curious to see if those
Terrifier in
rumors.
space. Oh
boy.
Okay.
I'm not.
I would love to see that.
I'm saying what I've heard.
Oh God.
Let's wrap up news before we get to Terrifier. I promise we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. I know. Curtis, we've talked Jack Black a couple times on the podcast. Actually,
Yes,
you've
sir.
been here for I think all the Jack Blackness, which is really
Yes, sir.
weird to say out loud. What are your thoughts on another Jumanji?
So I've only seen the new ones because of Jack Black. As a larger guy myself, it's great to see him be as successful as he is, being in the Hollywood industry, being like the unconventional actor. But I think his charisma and his humor really takes him super high.
Okay.
I think they're fine. I don't hate them as much as I thought I would, because that original one with Robin Williams has a special place in my heart. I need to see what they do with the third one. If it's just the same quality as the first two, that'd be great. No, I'm excited to see it.
Okay. Now, Heather, we've only talked Terrifier, so I'm super curious to hear your thoughts on Jumanji. Are you going to watch this next one? What are your thoughts at all on this whole series?
I like the Jumanji series. It's definitely not in the horror vibes of everything, but it's just a fun movie. Like there's not a lot more to it than that, in my opinion, but it's fun.
Okay.
Heather has a list of about 240 movies that she still needs to watch.
Don't we all?
Okay.
I
They
mean,
made an
I
email
still have
of
a
all
list
the
of
movies I've
movies.
never seen. They love to
You
quiz
know
me on
what?
this, and
You
all
know
things
what?
came out before I was born. But they were like, we saw this in the theaters. It was great. And I was like, great. I was -3 at the time.
They weren't all before you were born. And by the way, Mr. Body, because I heard you guys talk about that. That's a reference to the movie Clue. Maybe you guys have seen it.
Yes,
Okay.
that's I thought it was.
I,
Okay,
I
yeah.
have not seen that.
That's how I knew it was definitely you.
I have not
Yeah, but
seen
when Heather started at the studio, started working there, of course, part of the conversation is to talk about movies you've seen, what's inspired you, what kind of films do you like? And as we would go down the list of, well, have you seen this? I haven't seen that. And after, I don't know, a couple months, we realized that there were drastically more movies you've never seen than movies you've seen. And so I had her pull out a piece of paper and start writing down movies that she had to watch. And so occasionally when she gets a free moment on a weekend or an evening with her friends and she's like, I'm going to watch a movie, she goes to that list and she tries to pick and pull. Now, Dakari, you might be able to learn something from this because movies like Pulp Fiction, I would imagine you've seen all the horror ones, The Thing and American Werewolf in London and all those.
Yeah, I've seen Pulp Fiction prior to Max.
That was the other guy who couldn't hang.
That was
He
his first time.
Okay.
He passed
But
out
I
for
will
Alvin the
tell you,
Chipmunks.
I have not seen American Werewolf. I
Oh,
will tell you that.
Very good. Yeah.
I find it really amusing here watching you all speak since it was my first time meeting everybody, talking about films. It's obviously, galaxy of film, and yet there's so many movies that you guys are talking about that you haven't seen.
I
Whether
know.
they're a reboot, whether they're a sequel, whether they're a nuanced film that deals with a certain category that obviously isn't maybe horror or something. I mean, film is film. It's beautiful, right? All of it.
Yeah,
You get something
absolutely.
out of everything, a camera angle, a setting, a landscape, a performance. And so there's so many. I just find it funny here that you guys are like, I haven't seen that.
Well, it's funny because I just watched Young Frankenstein for the first time yesterday,
Oh,
and I love Mel Brooks. I just never seen it.
Uh-oh.
It was fantastic.
yeah.
If
And
you
Terry
don't-
Gard just passed away today.
I know, it's so sad.
That's
Yeah.
terrible. That's terrible.
Heather, what's one of the movies Christian put on the list for you to watch?
Oh my
Oh.
God, there's so many. He's not kidding when he said it's like hundreds of movies.
What's
like
one
God.
that you
Yeah.
ended up watching?
Like one of my favorite ones I've watched so far is like Seven.
Okay.
There's a lot
Great.
of Brad Pitt movies this year. Like,
Oh.
the first 5 or 6 movies I watched, I was like, do you have a Brad Pitt thing? Because why are they in every single one of these?
Ooh, boy.
Yeah, we started going by category. We realized we'd pick an actor and say, have you seen this one, this one, this one, and this one of this actor? And she'd be like, no. Okay, how about this director? No. How about,
Ah.
So we would-
And I will
Sure,
apparently
go
never
ahead.
live this down.
Max, you said you've covered all Jack Black. You've not covered Shallow Hal, have you?
No, I've said we've covered a lot of Jack Black. Not all Jack Black. We've done Nacho
Okay, well,
Libre,
if
Pick
you
a
go
Destiny.
to the rom-com version, bring me back on for that, I guess.
Okay, I got you. I'm just imagining, Heather, you have like the Captain America list where he's just crossing them off slowly as he's catching up to the years. I love it. I love it.
Man.
Christian, what about you? Are you going to watch this next Jumanji entry? What are your thoughts on the other films as a whole? Where are you at with them?
Well, it sounds like I'm sort of maybe one of a couple people here. I've seen all of them. You
Okay.
know, I wasn't. Unfortunately, I wasn't a kid when the first one came out with Robin Williams. I was a young man still. But I enjoy all of them. I've seen all of them in the theater. Even the two reboots. Aquafina in the second one I thought was hilarious. I'm looking forward, to a third one. I wouldn't say that I'm it was on my list of movies that I wish they would make, but if they're going to make it, I'll probably go see it. Especially, it depends now. I think you guys made up some good points. If they're going to recast it and do something new, and sort of reboot even the secondary cast that they had in the second and third one there, I don't know. I'd have to probably take a look at that lineup, but if they bring back The Rock and Jack Black and everybody, yeah, I'd go see it.
Okay. I think it's fair, honestly, to kind of, judge once we see more and more casting news for it, especially. Now, Ryan, what about you? How are you feeling about Jumanji, this third/fourth entry? Where are you at with this series? It's so weird to call this a series,
I mean, I love the original. It was like something that I watched pretty often, and it had a lot of fun practical effects in it. Had a lot of bad CGI in it, but it had a lot of fun practical effects in it too. And anything with Robin Williams is almost always gold. So I did recently see, I guess what is it? Welcome to the Jungle. Is that the first reboot?
Yeah.
The new, yeah. So I saw that recently. Actually on vacation, it happened to be on, and I had no idea what it was. My wife was like, "Oh, it's Jumanji." So we watched it, and I was like, "Yeah, it's fun. It's you can't really compare them because they are different movies, but it's a fun popcorn movie. You know what I mean? Like, especially like Christian said, if you're seeing it in the theater, fun to watch on a big screen. Not really something that I'm gonna rewatch often, or maybe every 5 years or something like that if it's on TV, or I'm just talking to somebody else about it. But the first one, that gets a rewatch every couple of years or so.
I agree on that. I agree.
Okay, cool.
Ryan, did you ever watch the sci-fi Jumanji, Zathura? That came, I forget what year that came out.
Oh my god, that just awakened a memory.
Yeah, that one's great. That one's a lot of fun.
A lot of good monster effects in that, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Like the lizard aliens, those look cool as hell when I was a kid, yeah.
Oh my god.
I forgot about that movie.
Speaking of things that look like lizards, for our next piece of news, this is an interesting one, Will. I think we've kind of talked about this, especially with Jake a few months back. Obviously, we're getting a fifth Shrek. It's no secret. It's crazy. Our generation grew up on that. It's crazy. It's one of the greatest things of all time, dude. Shrek 5 is going against Spider-Man 4 of Tom Holland.
Ooh.
Crazy.
Jesus
What do you think's going to win the box office, dude? Do you think we're gonna see Spider-Man up top or Shrek? What is your opinion?
Shrek.
There we go, Christian. Just right. All right. I love
Hell
it.
yeah.
I love it.
Let's go.
No, I can't argue with that.
Okay, Dakari's on Shrek. Christian's on Shrek. What about you, Will? Where are you at?
Well, how well did the new Puss in Boots movie do?
Last
I heard it did very well critically, but I don't know how well it did box office. Was it huge?
I think it was pretty big.
I think it did.
Okay.
I think it made a profit at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
I you know what? I'm gonna have to be cynical here. I'm gonna assume Spider-Man's gonna be the one to make like $8 billion, given the track record with Spider-Man movies, and apparently the deal with the new one is like they're gonna bring back Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield again, and Venom might be in it too. So I'm sure that movie's gonna make an insane amount of money. It's gonna be tough for Shrek, but I'm gonna be rooting for Shrek because I'm very excited for a new Shrek movie. When was the last theatrical one? Because I remember they made like 8 different like Shrek direct-to-DVD movies and all that, and like nobody cares about the. Bring back theatrical Shrek, and have Puss in Boots in it and all that.
I think the last excited one was what, like 2011, I think, dude, or 10 or something like that.
Yeah,
2010.
2010. Okay, yeah. God damn, man, I feel old.
So that's gonna be a big comeback, though.
It is, man. It truly is. Taking a look at the comment section real quick. We got Shamim in the comments. What's going on? The Autograph King himself. Yep. Like I called it earlier, Dakari. We got Ken Dog in the comments, bro. We got Ken Dog chilling out. What's good to you, everyone? How are you beautiful people feeling? Ken Dog, we're doing great here, man. I'm glad you're here in the comments, bro. We're celebrating episode 201. I think you've met, you've met Naima, you've met Dakari. I think you met Will. Will, did you meet Kenny at the cameo last year?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
You won't forget him.
Of course.
Yeah,
He's
my mom met Ken Dog, which is crazy to say out loud. But yeah, glad to get here in the comments, man. In the morning, I'm making waffles. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Amazing.
Hey, man.
Oh.
Hey, man, at it.
Heather, how are you feeling? Are we doing Shrek or are we feeling Spider-Man for next summer? Or for 26, excuse me, not next summer. Whose team you on?
I think Spider-Man. I think Shrek. Like, what else are you going to do to Shrek at this point?
What are you
And it's
gonna
also
do to
been
Shrek?
so long since the last one came out. Like, it's a fun kitty nostalgia thing, I think, for my age group.
Mhm.
But I think it's a little bit played out.
Okay.
It could end up being Shrek into the Shrek-verse.
Unlike
Oh,
Marvel,
God.
We don't need any more multiverses. We're done.
True.
I agree, Heather. I'm with you on that one.
Agreed.
Oof. And Ryan, what about you, man? Are you team Spider-Man or team Shrek?
Just personal preference. I would say Spider-Man. But
Wow.
also, I mean, because of what Heather said, it's been so long. There's a chance that depending on what they do with it, it could be that bounce back film that is a big resurgence. But I mean, with the way everything's going, and I think with how Marvel's kind of repositioning and going for more quality than quantity now, probably Spider-Man.
Allegedly.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
We got more team Spider-Man than I thought for this one. Okay. And Curtis, I'm assuming I know your answer, but let me hear it anyways.
My brain says Spider-Man, but my heart says Shrek, so I'm hoping Shrek is
Amen.
over.
There we go. That needs to be a t-shirt too. My brain says Spider-Man, my heart says Shrek. I love it. And Dakari, do you have any final answers to Spider-Man, Shrek? Where you at?
I'm with Shrek, man.
There you go.
We are oversaturated with comic book movies, so it's kind of like a refreshment that we're getting another Shrek movie for the first time in years. So go Shrek.
It'll either be really good, Dakari, or it's going to be really bad.
Hey,
I don't think
listen, I hope it's just really good.
Yeah.
I'm hoping they bring back Shrek 2 energy. I really want another Shrek 2. I still watch that for fun as an adult.
Do you think Shrek's had more babies? I think is the
Maybe,
real
I hope not.
maybe he's like a father of the bride type of thing, where it's like one of his kids gets married and he goes, maybe it's one of those.
Oh, are we gonna see Grandpa Shrek, dude? Oh my, the world, the possibilities are endless.
Old man Shrek.
Yeah.
Oh,
That'll be hilarious.
that's beautiful. Ken Dog says he's on Team Mary Jane blazing the world or Team Love. Okay. All right. Good job, Ken Dog. Good job. We love it, man. That's going to go ahead and wrap it up for news this week, guys. Let's go ahead and get ready to talk about Terrifier 3 and Cannibal Holocaust, of course, both respectfully. But before we do that, Dakari, I know you got to get ready to head out because you haven't seen these films. I don't want to spoil them for you because you're missing out, dude. And, you got to watch these. You just have to. At least Terrifier.
Have you been avoiding?
I
Have you been
definitely-
avoiding all social media? How have you not already had spoilers?
I haven't been on social media.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've been taking a detox from social media for almost a month now. So,
Oh, good for you.
Nice.
For you, Dakari.
He barely missed the little bit for it. There you go. Barely.
yeah, but I'll definitely get around to watching them as soon as possible. I've heard nothing but great things. I'm not a big horror dude, but I respect horror. I will tell you my favorite horror movie of all time is Hereditary. So I will say that slashers aren't really my go-to for horror flicks, but I'll definitely check it out.
Have to, man. They're some of the most impressive things out there, truly.
Oh, yeah.
They are. I remember we, also for our listeners, I forgot to mention this too. Link down below. We covered the first 2 Terrifier films like a year and a half ago, along with Hobo with a Shotgun, which is also an incredible movie. If you guys haven't seen that,
Love Hobo with a
watch it.
Shotgun.
Oh,
That's
so
Rest in peace, Rucker Hauer.
Yes.
Rutger
Oh my
Hauer.
God. So
Rest
good.
in peace, Rutger Hauer.
Oh, Curtis, are you sticking around for Terrifier? Did you watch this yet? Are you holding out or no?
I haven't seen the third one. I've seen the first two. I just haven't had a chance to go see the third one yet.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I've been spoiled on it because sometimes when you go through social media, I've been very good at avoiding things. But sometimes they'll do like, hey, here's this ad for like something, and then it'll pop something at the very end. I'm like, oh, okay, thanks. But I haven't seen it yet. No, I have not.
I gotcha. Okay. Well, we'll get ready to get you out of here too then, man, so it's not spoiled for you. Dakari, you got anything you want to plug before you head out, man? Anything you want to say?
Yes, I wanted to add something to movie news because there's this one particular thing, movie related news wise, that definitely caught my eye. Have you guys noticed announcement of a film called The Brutalist?
I have not. No.
It's with Adrian Brody. Who's all in it? Adrian Brody, Felicity Jones. Who's all in it? I can't recall right now. I'm gonna look at it. But anyway, it's a 215-minute film with a 15-minute intermission, and it was shot in VistaVision. Now, if you know your film history, if you're familiar with film history, you know that VistaVision was one of the more popular film formats in like the 50s and 60s. Made famous with movies like Ten Commandments and whatnot. So I feel like this should be acknowledged because this might be the first time in a long time we'll get film events like this. This is definitely a movie that's I'm gonna want to be on my radar because this is a movie that I will go out and see. You know, like we need to see like more contemporary epics and movies. And that's what we're missing in today's climate of film today. We get a lot of blockbusters, a lot of comic book movies, a lot of sci-fi, this, blah, 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 blah. This is what we kind of need right now. So,
I think that Oppenheimer really opened up the door for that.
Oh yeah, it definitely did. Even though I haven't seen Oppenheimer, but I get your point.
What are you doing? Get out of here and go watch Oppenheimer. What are you doing?
I get the point. I wanted to see it in theaters. I couldn't see it in theaters. That's why I haven't watched it yet. I couldn't see it in theaters.
Oh my God.
Look what you did.
I'll never forget, dude, as I'm on the plane ride back from Germany earlier this year. And, you know, I'm slightly taller than everyone in Galaxy of Film. So I'm sitting here and I can see over the TV screen. And like 50 motherfuckers are watching Oppenheimer on the airplane. And I just wanted to punch all of them in the face right then.
Just as Nolan intended.
Just as he intended, dude. That or on the little PlayStation 1 flip-up screen. Like,
that's crazy.
Oh, crazy, dude. Crazy. Dakari, get on out of here so Terrifier is not spoiled for you, my good sir. Thank you so much for sticking around for 201 episodes, bro. It's been an honor having you a part of these episodes and from being here from the very start. I can't thank you enough for going on this journey with me, man. Galaxy of Film to the moon. You and I are taking this further than most people get in a night, of course. But,
yeah, man.
Yeah. And then Curtis, it's always a pleasure having you on, my good sir. Where can our listeners find you, bro?
So they can find me over at Twitch, twitch.tv/CurtisShack. Doing a lot of game stuff right now. We are currently playing through a lot of ranked games for the new Dragon Ball Sparking Zero game.
Okay.
I'm doing a lot of fun with that. Then gonna take a little bit of a break to focus on more family stuff after that. And then hopefully end of November, start of December is when our podcast Code Zero will start.
Okay.
I will shoot Max probably either next week or the week after that. I'll shoot you the link to that stuff. So if you ever want to do that.
Oh, absolutely. You know I got you. You know I got you.
Let's do that. Yeah, so we're gonna be doing that soon, and it's always a pleasure to be on here. I thank you a lot for who would have known meeting a stranger in a line for a convention and then knowing you for 5 years is kind of crazy. So thank you a lot for letting me be on here, and it's super cool that you and Dakari and all these guys have facilitated this cool space on the internet, and I think you guys are doing a great job, and I hope you guys keep doing it for more years.
Yeah. You guys are stuck with us, just like Ryan Reynolds said, to our fucking 90, dude. Like we're driving this to the ground. I don't care.
Trust me. Whenever someone's late or cancels, Max, you're like, "Hey, you want to be on?" I'm like, "All right."
Yeah, you just
so I got you, boy. I got you.
Oh, no matter what trash movie we feed Curtis, he's always on.
I've probably seen it.
Dakari, Curtis, love both you guys. Get the hell out so we can talk Terrifier. Let's
yes, sir. Have a go, everybody.
Have a good night, guys.
Nice to meet y'all. Nice to meet you all.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and dive into Terrifier 3. So yeah, we've talked Terrifier 1 and 2. Like I said, listen to that episode if you haven't already. It was also paired of Hobo with a Shotgun, which is also criminally underrated. So check that movie out as well. But yeah, this is a couple years later. Art the Clown is back at it again, dude, and it's a Christmas film this time. And Naima, you and I were talking about how, like, kind of skeptical we were about it. Like, it was either going to be really, really great or really, really awful because of the Christmas thing. We were really worried about it being, like, it had this seasonal, like, stamp where you really can't appreciate it at any other time of the year. But boy, were we wrong with that one. So yeah, we do have Sienna back in this, her little brother Jonathan, and Art is kind of coming back for revenge on them, kind of coming back for round 2, if you will. And we'll kind of dive more into spoilers as we kind of open up our discussion about this one. But Naima, let me hear some of your thoughts on the first 2 Terrifier films, because you weren't on that episode originally. We weren't actually, I hadn't even filmed with you yet, now that I think about it.
I don't think we had met yet at that point.
No. So let me hear your thoughts.
For reference, Christian and Heather and, oh my God, please tell me your name one more time. I'm so sorry. Ryan. Sorry, I can't see names, so I'm like...
Oh, you're on a phone. I forget. Yeah, it's awful for you.
Well, I'm traveling, so I'm literally sitting in the hotel room in California. So when I first met Max, I thought he was doing a horror film. It was called No Vex. I thought it was called No Hex. So I thought I was going to be in a witch movie because I'm an actor. And that's how we met. So I thought we had met originally doing horror. So I wanted to make sure we specified that first off. With you, Max. So with the first 2 Terrifier, oh my God, I watched the first Terrifier by accident. It was on Tubi, and I grew up with a family that loves horror movies. Like, my mom was a huge horror fan, passed it down to my brother, who, all of them passed it down to me. To be honest, I'm the biggest horror fan, I think, out of all of them, in terms of just being a critic, being an actor, wanting to go into it, writing it, things like that. And then, before joining Galaxy of Film, I had my own podcast. So, and was specifically about horror. My niece, so my brother's daughter, ended up becoming a horror fan too. And she and my twin nephews talk so much about this Terrifier. And I'm like, oh, it's the new generation horror movies. And they're like, Auntie, you need to sit down and watch it. So one day we were hanging out and they put it on Tubi. Oh my God. One of the best horror films I had seen in so long. It was like perfect timing. It was so absurdist that it was brilliant. You have this new horror icon in the making that you don't even realize yet. And it's just there's no storyline really in the first movie. You don't really care about these characters, and yet it's just so gory and it's so brutal and it's awesome. And for anybody that doesn't know me, gore is my thing. Like, I would love to get killed by Art the Clown in a Terrifier movie. Like, forget Final Girl, like, kill me off. You know what I mean? I would love that. And I was so taken aback from the first. I mean, I loved it. And then I made my husband watch it. I made my friends watch it. And then I find out they're making a second movie. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then you find out it's an independent film. You find out, they crowdfunded, they made their own, resources to make this movie. And, after talking to David, especially, like, looking back and realizing that they did that purposefully in order to kind of keep the storyline the way that they want and not Hollywood or anybody changing it, which is incredible because that is how the industry is. And I find that so inspiring. And you can just see the gore progress in the second movie. You can see David having so much fun in the second movie, like really bringing out the comedic side to it, really fleshing out that story a lot more and kind of giving character and meaning to the first movie, which, again, very different atmosphere going from the first to the second, but it works. The first movie works perfectly for the way it was written at that time. And then if you've seen the short film before, which, Max, have you seen the short film that they did before?
Yeah, I've seen that, All Hallows Eve, yeah.
Well, All Hallows Eve, but they had a short film.
No, I've seen that too, and All Hallows Eve as well, yeah.
The anthology, yeah. And I guess seeing the progression of, Art the Clown, and I know there was different actor In all, I believe there's a different actor in the original, the short film.
Yes.
It was Mike Gianelli in the next version, I think.
Yeah, and you can just see the progression and the change of all the characters, and it's something comedic about Art the Clown. And I think the second movie, and then going into the third, which we'll get into later, you can just tell he's having so much fun with it, that it's not just this horror movie, but there's just heavy comedic element to it that really drives it home. And I think the Terrifier franchise, especially the first two movies, just watching them, you knew it was going to expand and grow and only get better. So even with the idea of the holiday, I was just so curious to see what Damien Leone was going to do with that. And, we'll get into it, but spoilers, he did not disappoint.
But yeah.
Incredible franchise.
Truly. And then Will, I know we also, same thing with you. You just weren't here right then. I think you came on shortly after we talked about the first two Terrifier films. So catch us up to speed with you as well. What are your thoughts on those real quick?
Yeah, so kind of like what Naima said, like one of my favorite things about horror movies is just the practical effects, the gore, and like that kind of element of it. I mean, I grew up as a kid just watching any kind of monster movie I could get my hands on. Like starting out with like Godzilla, and that's more in the sci-fi kind of spectrum. And then I got a little bit older. I was like 7 years old, and my dad had this brilliant idea of setting me down and watching Jaws and John Carpenter's The Thing, and that just kind of like tore my brain open, and it like made me go, oh my god, like seeing people getting torn to shreds in these movies and turning into grotesque monsters. That is just like absolutely captivating in a weird way. And knowing that there are people out there that are like making that stuff and fooling your brain into thinking like, oh my god, that's a real person getting like, eaten alive by a shark or turning into some Cronenberg monster. And then I got a little bit older, getting into the slasher flicks and how that gore was a little bit more realistic. And that there's also those iconic characters, like the slasher villains themselves. And I feel like Terrifier, when I finally got around to watching the first two Terrifiers only this month for this show, so that I could be prepared for Terrifier 3, because I heard that the first two were fantastic. And finally getting around to watching these, like, it was just kind of everything that I wanted from what I just said there. Like, just having an iconic horror villain and then pushing the boundaries of what you can do with the practical effects. And what I loved about the first one was that it is just kind of this, it's just Art the Clown running around killing people. And I don't really care that much for these characters, but that's fine in this movie because I'm just locked in the whole time because of how much I actually care about Art. Like, he's so cool. And then the second one kind of like upends that and then is like, no, we're actually going to focus on a character this time. And we're going to make you care about her and her friends. And I thought it did a really good job. Like, I found myself just like being like, oh yeah, look at these friends just hanging out at the club. She's, I thought that they were likable people. And then eventually, this guy's getting his dick chopped off and this girl's getting acid thrown at her face. And yeah, again, just really, really just fun, awesome movies. So I had very high expectations going into this third one.
Okay.
And I was immediately like, oh, I've seen the picture of him. I didn't see any of the trailers or anything. I just knew that he's in a Santa Claus costume going into this one. I really did not see like anything for it.
That's crazy.
So I was already sold. I was already in there. So yeah, that like going right into it.
I think I want to say Danilo may have been around still whenever the trailer for the third one dropped. So we've been covering 3 ever since like everything kind of was announced for as it was going along. Ryan, catch us up with you as well, dude. What are your thoughts on the first 2 Terrifier films? Your first times you watched those movies? Let me hear your thoughts.
So friends of mine that have a podcast, I don't know if you guys know it, Forever Midnight Podcast.
Okay.
They actually had released the soundtrack to the first one and given me they had an extra Blu-ray and they were like, hey, you should check this out. It's really cool. Me and my wife sat down to watch it and I was like, it's brutal. It's great. Like, and for that same reason, there's no plot. It's literally just, here's the character, here's what he's doing, and it's just a bunch of effects. And I was like, it's rad. It's really cool and really gritty and way beyond any slasher stuff that was going on at the time. The second one, if like for me, I'm a bigger fan of the first one than the second one. The second one, obviously, the bigger budget, effects are way better, and everything's going that way. But I kind of missed it just being about art. Peeking into the third one a little bit. Now that the third one's come out, I actually appreciate the second one more because of the character development into the third one. So it's actually it is, you know, it does feel more linear, and like there's so much more to it than what we got in just the second one. So it's, for me, I think the third one's my favorite now, but it's kind of tied for the first two.
Interesting. Okay, I remember when we walked out the theater, Naima, you were kind of feeling the same way. I felt like too, between 1 and 3. So I'm here. It's interesting to hear that same kind of comparison, actually.
Yeah, it's tough because I agree with Ryan. You made such a great point. There's something about the absurdist in the first where it's about art, and it's such a perfect, like, cultivated film. But then, you know, you see the second and the third, and they really implemented something different. So it's a different type of appreciation. You know, it's not necessarily a fair comparison, since, you know, the second movie needs the third movie to help it out. But the second movie, you can tell they really are going a lot harder than the first movie. But there's something so simplistic. I don't even want to say simplistic. Let's rephrase. There's something so, yeah, I guess simplistic. Sure.
There's nothing wrong with simplistic, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I think
I mean,
sticking
it's
to
not.
that one thing.
You know what I mean? But there's just something about that first movie that it's just I just love it. But I love how much more fun art has in the other ones. And I think for me, the idea of bringing in other characters is fine, and you feel for them, and the idea of the final girl is great. But for me, it's always about art. Like, that's my main thing going into it, is kind of how is his character going with these films. And the progression of that is why all the films for me work so well.
I gotcha.
It's a tough thing to kind of compare the first between the second and the third.
And going back off, like, simplicity being a good thing too. Will, we talked about that last week of Halloween, for example, with Michael Myers.
That's an example of simplicity being a bad thing. For Halloween 2 specifically, like Halloween 2 and Terrifier, the first one, have a very similar vibe. It's just this one area, and there's a guy walking around killing people. And I find the first Terrifier to be fantastic. And the second, and Halloween 2 is just very boring. There's not really a whole lot going on. It's not really pushing any boundaries. It's just, it's just a very slow movie that doesn't really do much.
Yeah.
So you can, if you nail simplicity, if you really like squeeze it down into its like the finest elements, squeeze it into a diamond, it's awesome when you do that.
Truly.
Well, I also agree. Well, I think a lot of movies, especially that have a franchise, something about the first movie, usually they are the most simplest. Yeah, they're usually I'm going to say that they're the most simplest compared to a lot of the other franchises that come out, like Final Destination. Most of the time, people still love the first one, even though you can tell the effects have upgraded in the other ones. It's just because there's something about that storytelling that is just so genuine. And then sometimes whenever you continue forward with the other movies, it may lose a little bit of that, but it really just depends on the director and the storyline. And I think Terrifier is a little different in what I'm saying, because it is more indie based. And I think indie films, for me, I have a sweet spot for indie films. But that's, you know, I agree with you. Simplicity is key if you can nail it right.
That's how I feel about the whole Saw series, really. You know, going back to the
I love the Saw series. I love 1 through 6.
Okay, dude, we're not talking about 5 and 6.
We'll talk about that another time. After 6, you can go to hell.
Just garbage, dude. Anyways, Heather, let me hear your thoughts on Terrifier 1 and 2 real quick before we dive into 3.
It's very similar to Ryan. Like, the first one, it has that, like, genuinely making you afraid. I think there's very few films nowadays, especially with what we do, that you watch them and it's actually uncomfortable to watch. And that's one of the few films that I've seen that still is hard to watch and gives you that, like, lingering sense of fear, which I think is really cool in a film. We don't get that very often. And then 2 is such a drastic change. It's almost like watching a comic book film. And I think 3 does a good job of balancing those 2 aspects a lot better. But yeah, I think I like 1 for that purpose of just it being gruesome enough to not want to watch it, but wanting to watch it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's like a train wreck.
Yeah.
You know, you can...
But it was really interesting because I had seen 1, but I hadn't seen 2 by the time we started working on it in the shop, and I didn't have a script for 3. I just had like the bits and pieces they started telling me.
Oh.
So I had no concept that this had become supernatural when he was possessed. I was like, there's a serial killer clown. And then they start handing me things. And I'm like, so the head that she births out. And I go, what the fuck? And the magic sword. And I'm like, what is happening? And of course, Brian, who's our manager there, figured this out and started screwing with me and started telling me like random things that didn't actually exist in the script just to fuck with me.
Oh,
and then Christian would be like, no, that doesn't happen. And Brian would be like, no, he just hasn't read the latest version yet. And this went on for like a month. I was like, I don't know, but I was like, I don't care if it happens or not. Just tell me if I'm baking a head that someone shits out later, because that was the thing. I was like, what is happening here?
That's hilarious. Oh my god.
And that was the thing with Terrifier. It could have been anything. Like, there's nothing they could tell me. I'm like, that's unbelievable that could happen in this film. There's nothing. There's nothing that's off limits here.
That's true. That's true. That's an interesting work environment, I imagine, especially. I love it.
Could you fill us in on some of the fake Terrifier 3 plot details?
Major thing is Brian kept trying to convince me that Victoria, after her head gets cut off, gets resurrected because someone shits out her head.
Okay.
For a solid month, they went back and forth telling me this was real or not. Like, am I making her head or not, guys? Like, I don't know.
For it.
That's fucking great. Christian, let me hear your thoughts on the first two Terrifier films real quick too.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me because I'm not typically a horror movie guy in the traditional sense of, I don't search out these types of movies to watch. Like, it's Saturday night, let's go. What's the latest? Cut 'em up slasher horror movie. Probably because I did it. I for 20 years I watched those movies back in the 80s and in the early 90s, and I was a huge fan of them. And then my taste changed, and I get a little bit older, and then you start making the stuff, and pretty soon it just becomes like, I don't know if I have the bandwidth for it. But I would say, look, I like them. They're slasher movies, and when I watched them, I think the thing that I took away from the first one specifically was it was well made considering its budget. It was a really well made, crafted film that had good edits, captured sort of an essence of that old early, sort of 80s horror movie, which, Damien was clearly going for. And nobody has done it really well since then. And I think that's the one thing that's really separated Damien's film from other people who are just making independent horror movies, is everybody's trying to capture one specific thing, or they're trying to do all these, practical effects. And the truth of it is you can't do good practical effects unless you have a decent budget and a decent amount of time. And this is why Damien took a year and a half to make the first one for $35,000, is because, he had to deliver flowers and earn $30 to pay for the next, gallon of plaster that he needed or something, right? So it takes time to craft these things, and he knew how he wanted to shoot it. And so anyways, I appreciated more the filmmaking quality than I did necessarily the effects. He was clearly going for shock value. You cut a woman in half, from the crotch down, you're going to turn some heads. You're gonna find your niche sort of audience that is going to fall in love with that idea, and then you're going to also discuss the people and get them talking about it. He pulled all the right levers in creating the first film, and clearly, look, if it wasn't fan base successful enough to garner him a couple $100,000, I don't know if we'd be sitting here talking about him making a second one.
Yeah.
Part of the reason you move forward, part of the reason why these, Final Destinations and all these types of Blumhouse movies get a sequel is if they do well. If they don't do well, they don't make it. And they usually make the first one without the intention of making a second one. Because if you have the intention of making a franchise, then you've already ruined the first movie.
That is true.
You have to put what your story is into the first one, deliver a complete story to people. And he did that in the first Terrifier movie. It ends. Art the Clown dies. It's over. But hey, how do we make a second one? Well, Art the Clown's not a human. He doesn't, die. You write it in, you figure it out. And so anyways, I was I think a little bit more in love with his craftsmanship as a director and an editor than I was necessarily the gore and all the practical effects. Although I thought, you know, he had some really fun ways of delivering the death sequences, but it's not typically what I go for. And so, you know, moving on to the second one, I thought he cleverly created, you know, Pale Girl. He added an elevated sense of what this world is now, you know, by bringing in the Valkyrie with her character, and he sort of set the tone for, I think I have something successful. Where am I going to go with this? But I can't tell it all in one film, so I'm going to take a part of that and hope that I can make a third one, kind of a thing. So I think at that point it expanded. I don't know that for sure, but yeah, you know, the second one, you can definitely see the quality of his filmmaking. You know, he started getting better at what he wanted, articulating what he needed to on camera. And, you know, it's just, it's overall, it progressively gets better. And that's our conversations on this third one is, you know, it's, as a filmmaker, he is becoming in tune with how to create a film and tell a story. I'm more excited about not even Terrifier 4, although, you know, I hope it happens and we all do it. But I'm more excited about where Damien's going with a project outside of Art the Clown.
Yeah,
you know,
how
is he as a filmmaker telling another story? Because Damien has done something very smart, and I think also that could be very detrimental. He's branded himself. It's Damien Leone's Terrifier. Just like it's John Carpenter's whatever, Prince of Darkness, John Carpenter's The Thing. If Damien can't deliver a movie, and Damien Leone is now synonymous with violence and gore. So he has to deliver on that next one. And so anyways, I'm really excited about where he's going to go with that. And I thought, again, I thought the second one was a nice elevated experience to the first one. I love the whole, you know, in the washing when he meets Pale Girl for the first time in the laundromat. I thought that was probably one of the most brilliant scenes in horror movie films. I thought it was just brilliant.
Like where they're
Max,
playing
I told
patty
you
cake in
that.
silence.
I literally was
Great.
talking to you about that.
You did, absolutely, dude.
I
It's a
literally
great
was
scene.
talking to you about that laundromat scene. Oh.
It's awesome, dude. It's awesome. Let's go ahead and keep diving into the third one. You know, obviously, you know, this whole franchise at this point, which again, it's crazy to call this a franchise now, but we're really getting to that point with it. And it's you know, I feel like, Will, especially you and I, where we've talked about these big, like, studio bloated films like The Flash, where, like, franchise is almost like a derogative term when it comes to these kind of movies we're talking about these days. But with Terrifier, it's like a reward almost. Like, it really is an accomplishment. So it feels really awkward to say franchise now, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, especially as indie filmmakers, like you know, I'm writing a 20-minute horror movie script right now, and I sit down, I watch the first Terrifier, and I'm like, wait, this is like, in a good way, this is achievable.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm seeing like a pathway, you know, for filmmakers like us. And like all it takes is you know, making something like that, and like it's been very inspirational for me. And then seeing how that movie spirals into a big franchise, it is awesome. I'm really happy for you know, all you guys being able to work on these films, especially, you know, the director and all them. Yeah,
absolutely, dude. Real quick, pay attention to the chat for a second. Ken Dog says he's heading out. I did ask the chat real quick what some of their favorite horror movies are, and Ken Dog mentioned Cujo because it reminds him of his dog. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but love it. Peace out, Ken Dog. Glad you're able to come through and hang out with us for a bit. Take care and have a wonderful night, man. But back to Terrifier 3, though. Whoa, that was cool.
How did I do that?
I don't know. I don't know how the hell that happened. That was cool, though.
Me out.
All right. Terrifier 3, yeah, this really does push the boundaries like we've talked about before, especially of like what can be done on camera. You know, I feel like there's always a limit with filmmaking, and it's always like you're kind of wondering how far we're gonna get with these movies, and it just always keeps ramping it up more and more. And Terrifier 3's big thing, the limit it pushes, is it's killing fucking kids, which is insane, dude. Like they're killing. An 8-year-old's decapitated in the beginning of this fucking movie, and then kids get bombed in the middle of a mall, which is insanity. Like, I didn't realize or like experience anything like any trauma or any kind of fear of like mass shooting. You know, I'm thankful enough to have never experienced a mass shooting whatsoever, and that didn't really recognize to me until I watched Terrifier 2 with the clown cafe scene, which is just utterly terrifying. Having that depiction in a horror film, and for at least for me, the first time I'd seen that done in a film. But seeing kids get like blown up that way in a mall is absolutely batshit, dude. And it's just constantly pushing it, which is insane in such a beautiful way as well. You know, it's no secret I work at a movie theater. I manage one, and man, like, yeah, the reports of kids buying tickets for Wild Robot and sneaking into Terrifier 3.
Dude, that happened at my showing. There was a bunch of kids that showed up, and they would not shut the fuck up for the first like 20 minutes. But then like things started getting more and more intense, and they shut up because they were like watching it, probably like shaking.
Yeah.
And eventually, I look over, and they're all gone. Like they had to leave at some point. I don't know if they got kicked out or anything, or they got too spooked from the movie. It was too much for them. Because even, I mean, like I said, when I was their age, I was watching Jaws and The Thing and stuff like that. So it's still crazy stuff, but never anything like this.
Dude,
never anything that went this far.
It's crazy. Like I really, being a manager of a movie theater, I try to let things slide. Like if you're theater hopping, and you know, I'm quitting the theater next month because I'm moving, so I can say this now. If you're theater hopping, I don't care. But if you're making it obvious, if you're looking at me as you're doing it, that's when I have to do something. You know what I'm saying? Or if someone complains to me that you're in there, I have to do something at that point because someone paid for the fucking seat. It's not like it's just stadium seating anymore, first come, first serve. It's all reserved now, so I have to do something about it. And so, like, yeah, I have to do ID checks for Terrifier, you know, if they come to the counter. But if I see a kid, you know, purchase them online, they go in, whatever. I'm not going to say shit. Go see your movie. I support this movie. I don't want to make anyone have to refund for Terrifier 3. But, dude, like, these kids are pushing it, man. Last week, I had 3 11-year-old girls going to see Terrifier 3.
Oh, my God.
Today, dude, 2 8-year-old boys tried going into Terrifier 3 by themselves. And that is insane to me. Like, I don't know whose parent dropped off an 8-year-old, period. You know what I'm saying? But, like, they go see Terrifier. Like, what the fuck's wrong with you? You know what I'm saying? It's brutal.
That's going to be some real character building right there. I don't know.
Truly, man. Absolutely. Let's talk about deaths in Terrifier 3. Some of our favorite deaths, our favorite moments with Art the Clown. It's like you guys are saying, like, that first Terrifier, it's all just Art, and he is the selling point of that film. So let's kind of view 3 with that lens of what our favorite Art moments are. Heather, I'm gonna have you first up because you've worked with Art directly, which is really fucking cool. Let me hear some of your favorite thoughts with Art.
It's so interesting watching them now after spending this much time with David, because David is the least scary person you've ever met in your entire life.
Okay.
It's so hard to be afraid of him now because you are watching it, and like it's difficult to separate the two because he is a person. He is the like joyous run around goofy clown version. That's just David all of the time. Okay. So, like when you're seeing him screaming, like that's not Art, that's just David. You want like my favorite from a film or from filming?
Both. Let's hear both of it, you know.
I don't know from the film. From filming, my favorite is like when we were doing, I remember the body scene in the attic with the head split open. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
As we're trying to fix this thing, and he's standing above us singing opera, and everyone's like screaming, like, we have to be filming this, we have to be filming this. David's just standing about there. It's 2 a.m. We're like 3 hours into overtime, and he's fucking singing opera above us as we're trying to rebuild this thing. We're like, that's David. That's David. And people always ask me at these conventions, they're like, do you get scared? Like, is he in character all the time on set? And you're like, no. Not scary work. They're like, is it really creepy working with him? I was like, no, it's really, really not.
See, it's the complete
He's
opposite
like the sweetest
of
person ever.
Complete opposite of like Jared Leto as Joker clown. I'm very glad that's not the case where you're just a method actor.
Have you seen those memes where they had Art the Clown go to Spirit Halloween stores and walk around and look at products? That's David.
Sitting and eating lunch, just sitting randomly, like at the conventions. He's just like eating, and people are just looking at him. He's just like,
no, that's just David all the time.
Oh my god!
Something else that's funny about that too is that for most of the filming, it was really just like Heather and I on set that would see David out of makeup. Damien too when he was in there, but like David was usually the first one to go into makeup every day. So almost most of the crew, most of the actors, they were in, David's in full makeup all day that they see him, and they almost never see him out of makeup. So they're getting, the Art the Clown look with the David personality.
Sure.
And it is like I have so many videos on my phone of like just David. As soon as it's like, okay, cut, and it's immediately David in the Art the Clown makeup. Like it's like a light switch. It's just on and off for him.
That's awesome. How long did it take for that makeup process every day for Art?
It's about an hour and a half to 2 hours every day.
Okay. Oh wow. Okay. Okay. Impressive. I love it. Sweet. And Ryan, what about you? Do you have a favorite kill moment, whether it be on or off set for Terrifier 3?
On set, it's definitely the axe murder stuff from the opening scene.
Okay.
That was
because we spent about a week there shooting all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the first day that we could really kind of like do a lot of blood.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we shot the attic scene, they were weird about there getting blood around, so they actually, art department built a fake like floorboard down underneath so that the blood would just get on that and wouldn't get on the actual floor of where we were shooting and everything. Okay. And it wasn't really spraying, it's like pouring down over the skull and over his face. But the axe murder sequence was like the first time we got to like spray a ton of blood and like, he's chopping up the body and but that was my favorite kill. One of the moments though there, because we had the fake body in bed, and we had to keep, fixing the body, fixing the placement. Christy Fox is in there, laying in with it. And myself and a few other people kept almost apologizing to the body because they are that good looking that they're laying there and you're like, oh sorry, oh wait, that's not real, keep going with it. And that happened throughout, I mean, Heather knows too, that happened throughout shooting. Like people kept like bumping into the bodies and sorry, here's a half body sitting here, and it's like, people just getting startled by the stuff kind of sitting around all over the place while we were shooting. It was always funny, just those moments. Everybody knows what it is, everybody sees it all, but in the movement of the day and just moving around, you forget sometimes, and then there's just half a torso sitting next to you without realizing it. So that was always pretty funny.
Awesome.
I love it, man. Oh my god.
That's so cool.
And Christian, what about you? Do you have any favorite kills or deaths in Terrifier 3?
Yeah, I mean, look, one of the great things is when you have a team like, Ryan and Heather, and you're getting into these conversations with Damien early on, and you have to build everything for his show, and you realize that every day of shooting is going to require an effect, right? So unfortunately, I wasn't able to be on set because I had to be back in the studio making sure everything was being built and shipped out. But I did make it out to do the shower sequence. So I finally got to that. So selfishly, I think the shower sequence. But personally, I still might say the shower sequence. I also agree about the whole Chrissy sequence. I loved how that came together. I love the work, that Ryan and Heather did on set to really make sure it all worked well. It kind of came together the way I envisioned it when I was talking with Damien about it. But I love the shower sequence because it was really not thought out until the very last minute. We were already 2.5 months into shooting before I could even get a storyboard out of Damien. Oh. And we only had like 2.5 weeks to build it and ship it. And by this point, we sort of had, because I would be talking with Heather and Ryan consistently throughout the filmmaking process. Damien would have notes, and every time I would write Damien or show him something, it was like, oh, dude, that's fucking amazing. Oh, that's great. That's amazing. Oh, yeah, it's perfect. Blah, blah, blah. And then I would ship stuff to Heather and Ryan going, okay, this is a done deal. Damien's approved it. It's all good. They would get on there and be like, hey, Damien wants, this big body to have feet. And I go, why? We never see the feet. It's only being shot from the head up. Damien wants feet now.
Oh,
Damien
remind me,
wants
Ryan. I have the photos of you life casting that girl's feet in the bathroom.
Oh, so they're doing like 3 times the amount of normal work that would need to be done on set because Damien is tweaking and changing his mind on set from what he approved that we were building in the studio. And so when it came, so by the time we got to the shower sequence, I kind of had a feeling of how to build stuff now. I was like, okay, if you can put a tube in it, if it can be hollow, if it can have a blood bag, if we can, whatever it is, as much blood as humanly possible, and then beyond that, multiply it by 10, and we're probably in pretty good shape. So I felt like that sequence came together the best because we finally got in tune with, well, I wouldn't say tune, we got ahead of what we expected Damien to then change his mind and want to do. And so we were prepared more for the shower sequence, I felt.
Okay. I love that, man. Oh my god. And it's such a great tribute to Psycho, of course, too, which Naomi, you and I had a whole discussion about as well.
I love it. It's in my top 10 favorite horror movies of all time. But I would think out of all of the scenes, that would have been the most well thought out. Just because of how brutal it was.
That's so surprising to me, but also unsurprising because like working on some films, like you'll be shocked that like you'll come up with things on the day that was not in the script or not, and it just works so much better than what your original idea was.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
well, I was gonna say I'll take you back to a moment when Damien and Phil were coming over earlier and we were going over the script and what we were building for the show. Budget was high. We were looking at budget reductions and where we could do it. And of course, Damien didn't want to leave up anything. Phil wanted to throw everything out the window. It was like this big, sort of conversation about how we were going to approach it. And Damien at one point said, the shower sequence, man, this has got to be the big kill. This is the bedroom sequence from the second movie. This is the girl cut in half from the first. This has got to be the big kill sequence. And I remember talking to Heather and Ryan before they even went out and saying shower sequence is his thing. However, when I was talking with Damien about it, I said, what makes this shower sequence so much more special than any of the other kills in the movie? Because you have all these big kills. Mm-hmm. It was like, I don't know yet, but it's got to be bigger. I was like, well, can you describe it to me? And he goes like, no, it just shower kill. And at first it was going to be one person, then it was going to be 2 people, then it went back to 1 person in the shower. And then he didn't know how he wanted to do it. And so that's why it just kept lingering and lingering and lingering. And finally we got to a point where it's like, look, man, I have to have notes on this because, it's coming up in a few weeks. We have to build it. And that's when he decided it was going to be 2 people in a shower. And what made it, really challenging was the fact that, unlike Psycho and any movie that has a chainsaw kill in it, and hopefully Ryan and Heather feel very proud about this. I know I do. It's never been done. I started looking up every kind of chainsaw kill in every kind of horror movie, and there's always a cheat. They're always wearing clothes. They're always behind something or around an object where they can fake the shot or do something, or they're grabbing it from angles that you never see, or it's completely CG, which is not something we could rely on in this movie. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of times I work with a production and we know where we can divide the line of like, well, that'll be a VFX shot and then we'll do this practical and we'll sort of create a marriage. This had to all be practical. And so killing 2 naked people in this sort of vulnerable setting that's wide open with a working chainsaw, and then throw that into a Terrifier movie where it's like, okay, we have to see it. Flesh has to be cut into. We have to see the blood. Those are massively difficult hurdles to overcome. Mm-hmm. And we had like 2.5, 3 weeks to build it. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, so and so I'm just really proud with the way it turned out, and I'm glad that it did have the impact that he was hoping for, and and I read a lot of people's comments who watched the film, and that certainly stands out as one of the big kills in the show. So I feel like we all did our job very well.
And it has this great grand finale too, with this blood snow angel, which is a great touch.
Brilliant. That was brilliant. That sounds like an idea that, like, as soon as you come up with the idea of like Art the Clown Christmas holiday special, like it's got to be him doing a snow angel at some point.
Yeah.
It's stealing Santa.
Did you know if he was? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was saying it's stealing Santa and bloody snow angel. Those were what I expected.
Yeah.
But that was literally the last shot of filming for the entire film. Was the angel. And Ryan, I don't know if you overheard, Damien, but until we did it, or it was probably a couple hours before we shot it, but until that moment, I had not heard of that scene being shot. I think that was something Damien came up with on the day.
No, that sounds really reasonable. That was most of the scenes in it. It's didn't happen till the morning of. You get a text night before, hey, by the way, I'm adding this tomorrow. And you'd be like, well, that's happening.
And I love the way it's just this perfect, like cherry on top with that scene. It just stretches it out just enough, just for the audience to be like, I really just saw this man get just chainsawed in half. I saw body parts I've never seen in a movie getting cut in half before.
Yeah, you get
I don't know what asshole, man. I don't know what like dark web anatomy books you guys had to look for research. But yeah, honestly, that's also going to be my favorite kill in the whole movie, because not only is it just the camera work, the editing, and the special effects all coming together in that moment so beautifully, but also just the build up towards that scene. Because as soon as you are introduced to the girl that gets murdered there, you're like, oh, she's gonna die really bad.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like, she's the one that's obsessed with serial killers. She's harassing the main characters about all that, and like really being unlikable. And you're like, oh, if you're unlikable in one of these movies, you are not gonna make it. Like, you're not just gonna get shot in the head and die instantly. You are gonna get it bad. And of course, I mean, the boyfriend character wasn't even that bad, but he gets it way worse.
Dude,
like, going into that,
that at all. I felt so bad. I was like, ask Max. We went with the group and watched it, and that scene, all of our jaws were dropped, because we knew that he had his, like you said, the cut in half in the first one, which was incredible. The second, which is the bedroom, we knew he was going to have a third one. We just didn't know what it was going to be.
Yeah.
And I did not expect it to be the shower scene.
As soon as he came in with the chainsaw, I was like, oh, this is going to be the bedroom scene from the second one. I just know.
This is the best.
Yeah. And it's just... And yeah, and what I also love is from just like on a character standpoint, like the way that Art the Clown like was listening to her talk about him and all this stuff. So it leads into that moment where she's like, "Oh, I wanted to look right into the eyes of a killer and see it." And then that pays off so excellently, where he puts the fucking goofy glasses on her, and just I love. It's not just the kill. It's not just the kill. It's actually like this point in the story. Where it ends this character arc right here, and I love.
I'm not gonna lie, Will. So I had already technically had a spoiler that she was going to die, for different reasons. And when her character was first introduced, I didn't know that it was her, and I was like, she's not gonna die, but he's gonna do something to scar her for life, and then maybe kill her later. As like one of those, those psycho people that follow serial killers. I was like, either she's gonna be scarred for life, or he's gonna like save her for last or something. And that's when I'm like, these movies are not predictable. Like, they're Game of Thrones. You do not know who's going to die. Like, you had no idea. But I knew when I saw the shower scene, I knew she was gonna die because of other reasons. But I knew
you can have a horror trope like two naked people making love and not have them killed. Yeah, you have to do that.
So I was like, oh yeah. I mean, it's rule number, what is it? Randy's rules, right, Will?
Yeah. So Naima, is that your favorite kill then too?
Say it again.
Is that your favorite kill then too? The shower scene.
I'm gonna say yes because of the shock factor.
Okay.
But the opening was remarkable to me because after oh my god, look at me, I'm too excited. Oh god, sorry y'all, I'm gonna rewind. yes, because of shock factor, but in terms of I can't even talk. That's how good it is. Most memorable, probably the opening, because after he slaughters this entire family, he just washes the dishes, and I think that'll never escape my brain on how absolutely hilarious that opening was.
How about when he washes his hands after he goes to the bathroom before he kills these people in the... I mean, those moments are fantastic.
Yeah. Incredible. And his faces too, when she's talking about, oh, how amazing art is, and he goes, and then and then the Santa Claus scene where he's like so excited to see Santa until Santa's pissed at him, and he's like, okay,
that's the laundromat scene for me.
Yeah.
When he sees Santa, oh my god, that was brilliant.
He told us that was his favorite scene. He said that was his favorite kill. And I can totally understand why, because that makes the movie. Like, he is now Santa, and I was waiting for that. So the third one is hard for me to have a favorite kill because, man, he pulled every string out in that third movie, dude. I can't even tell you.
Truly, dude, truly. Oh my goodness. Before I get to my favorite kill for Terrifier 3 real quick, we do have another guest joining us for this episode. We got our man himself, Johnny Zuko, joining the show. How are you doing, brother? It's been a minute, bro. It's been a minute.
Yeah, man. Sorry I was running a little bit late. I didn't want to interrupt because I was listening on the YouTube channel and I was watching on here. I was like, man, should I just jump on or should I just wait?
Nah, you gotta jump in on this, dude. It's episode 201, Johnny. You've been here for a hot minute, dog.
Yeah, congratulations. Also, congratulations on 200 episodes in on Galaxy of Film, man.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you, man. You putting in work. So, man, 201. Here's to another 200 episodes, homie.
Thank you, my good. So I'm sipping on a ginger ale. Fuck it.
Oh, man, Max, I wish I had my Terrifier 3 cup with me.
God damn it.
Pretend Terrifier 3 cup.
But Johnny, we're here. We got some good friends over here who are also worked on Terrifier, of course. We got Heather, Christian, and Ryan. Naima, Will, and myself, of course. But we're currently talking about our favorite kill for Terrifier 3. Personally, my favorite kill for this one, and there's an interview we're dropping later tonight / tomorrow morning that will kind of go over this too. But one thing you guys haven't talked about too much in detail is the snowman kill in Terrifier 3. In the bar, where he gets to meet Santa, basically. Gets the fake Santa at the bar of Clint Howard. I love Clint Howard to death, dude. I love the whole Howard family. I got to tell him about that. Like, his brother is a genius, his niece is a genius, and him, like, he's just I hate to overuse the word icon, because Naima, you and I were throwing that word around like hell at Nightmare Weekend. But
let me tell you, I only interview people that are icons to me, and you know that about me.
Exactly. You know that he really is, dude. Like, he has like almost 400 acting credits. He's a huge chunk of film history, man. He's awesome.
350 with Charles Brothers.
Yeah, here we go. But it's a great death sequence, the whole bit of it, and seeing Art turn these guys like whole fucking like night out just upside down. Like, I'm just imagining like almost like a Moe's Tavern-esque kind of feel, right? Like a homey kind of bar. You got your local drunks or regular in there. It's late night, winter, cold night. Just got off of a long shift just to blow some steam, and they get fucking annihilated, man. And building the snowman out of this guy's face is just genius. I loved every second of it. And to me, that sequence where we're seeing him put on the Santa fit for the first time. Like, I always compare a suit-up scene to this cutscene in Star Wars Bounty Hunter, where, like, Jango Fett's put on the armor again right before he's about to go save Zam at the end of the game. I don't know if you guys ever played Bounty Hunter, or even, it's a great fucking game. But for me, that was my Jango Fett moment for Art the Clown, and it was so fucking cool and so fun and wacky in the most, like, cartoon-esque way possible. But yeah, I love that scene to death. The bar scene's awesome. Johnny, do you have a favorite kill from Terrifier 3? I know I called you as you're walking into this thing, and you're like, what the fuck am I getting myself into?
Yeah, it was really more what the fuck I was walking myself into, because there were like 3 underage kids in there. So I was like, oh my God, bro, they were clearly under the age of 14. So I'm like, okay. The bad part is they kept talking throughout the whole entire movie until some old lady told them to shut up, and then there were quiet for the rest of the movie.
Now I love that there's an old lady in there watching this.
Yeah, she was in. I walked in there early and she was complaining about it too. She's like, "Goddamn fucking kids, they better shut the fuck up." And it was hilarious. I was like, "Okay, man, it's gonna be one of those theaters. Okay, let's go."
That's like fun.
My favorite kill though, or probably my most underappreciated kill, is probably the attic scene. And I think is the one where he splits that dude's head with the box cutter. I'm like, that is probably one of that is a gruesome kill. But also when you think about the relationship between Art and the demon that is there, doing what she's doing with the glass shard, it really kind of puts together this weird dynamic between these two characters, and you kind of think of that you're gonna get this Harley Quinn type situation throughout the whole entire movie, which kind of pays off toward the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like that one. That's very underappreciated. The practical effects that went into like doing that in the split. Oh my god! Like I would love to know how they did that. Just split that motherfucker. Just open.
Well, guys, how did you do that?
Yeah, you can ask it right fucking here.
It was a combination, and again, one of those things that kind of changed from storyboards to on set. So Ryan and Heather, and this is where I'm going to speak for a second and then let Ryan and Heather take over. But this is where having somebody like Ryan on set, who have a history with, who has done these kinds of working effects for over a decade with me, really comes in handy, because we build something with an intention of what Damien wants to see, and those things have to be storyboarded out, especially when you're doing practical effects, because every beat means whether it's a prosthetic, whether it's a fake head, whether it's going to have tubes, whether it's going to be blood drip from a knife. All these things have to be thought out in advance, because you don't have a lot of time on set to then change gears.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why they had to put in so many extra hours on set, is because he would change. But we built, it was a combination of a prosthetic piece for Johnny's head that could sort of slide and split over a bald cap, as well as a fake head that had a pre-cut with an underskull that had some movement. So when he peeled the skin off, you were left with the skull, and then obviously a good amount of Foley and sound put in post-production. But I know there were a lot of changes, because that scene draws out further than the intention that Damien originally described to us. So, Ryan and Heather had to be sort of MacGyvers on set and take elements that they had there and sort of finish it off. And you guys could speak better to what you had to do to make that scene come to life.
Yeah, I think, and you might remember, Heather, too, I think that day was the first, really hard day that we had on set, because that was the first day that the witch makeup was playing, and that was you and Alana, the whole day doing the witch makeup.
Yeah. And
we had Eric Harris, who's another person from Christian Shop, who was working on the animatronic and getting that set to go. And then Johnny Abrams was in the makeup, so I was putting on all his prosthetics, because he had the bitten off fingers, the big spike through the hand, and then finally the bald cap piece. And that was a day, we were behind. I think we were halfway through the day. We were like, we're moving great, everything's working good, and then we hit after lunch, and it was just nope. We just started falling slowly behind more and more, and trying to pick up shots in between. So we're running Johnny up in one makeup, shooting that, coming down, going back up, shooting the gag element, like the hand getting stabbed, or the fake hand with the blood coming out. Running
up and down. He means 3 full flights of stairs. It was the attic versus the basement of where we were. So
that wasn't on stage. I wasn't
we need this on set right now, and then you're just sprinting up these 3 flights of stairs.
Yeah, it's back and forth the whole day, and then the bald cap was the thing, because we were trying to get it in there where we could blood tube it, and so you could have blood running down his face, and the angle of the box cutter was a challenge. It was that was the first day that we hit that everything was kind of a challenge as we were trying to get the right shots, which all kind of led into the animatronic.
Ryan, can I interject real quick? I know the main shot that he added, and this is where it became an issue. Originally, we were supposed to see him scream. We were supposed to see a blood knife start the cut. Simple, right? Then we were supposed to shoot from the back of the head as the knife continued through the box cutter continue, and he started to peel the head. That was all supposed to be on the dummy. Damien then decided he wanted to do a front shot with Johnny seeing the skin start to part on his forehead. There was no prosthetic created for that.
Yeah.
So that's why you guys had to lower the bald cap and then open that up. So it became a whole figuring out how to make it look real, and yeah.
Yep, because we had you know, he was really adamant about it. He wanted the blade to start there and it to start to bleed as he pulled it back. And so the knife was tubed. We had tubing under the bald cap. The bald cap had, you know, this silicone like gore and stuff underneath it to pull away, and it was all these little elements just trying to put them together, which I mean worked out great for the shot. But the thing after that was the animatronic was the last thing that we were going to shoot, and I think Heather, were you working the eyes?
I was working the eyes, yeah.
So Heather was working the eyes. I'm running blood, and Eric's working the rest of the facial movements, and I think the neck movement on the animatronic, and the entire crew is up there in that attic, all because everybody was waiting for it. It was like the first big effect that we did, and everybody's in the attic. Everybody's like, all eyes are on us. Phil's downstairs going, we gotta shut it down. We're in overtime, and so that was like such a strenuous day. And once we did that, and the blood's coming over it, the skin comes off of the thing, and everybody's like, oh, this is great. Like, and when I think we shot it, we did a couple takes with it, right? We did like 3 or 4 takes, maybe.
I think you did.
I think so, because I think the problem was the jaw, because it had gotten broken in transpo, and so he was constantly trying to fix it and get it to go back, because I think they'd unpacked it because they thought it was a bomb at the airport, and they repacked it, so the jaw had broken in shipping. So it had to, like, Eric had rebuilt it there and everything like that. So we shot it like 2 or 3 times.
I think you shot it 2 or 3 times before I said, how'd it go? I remember talking to you guys the next day, because that was the big first effect. And you were like, It went great. Everything went good until like the 3rd time when the whole head just busted. By the time you peeled the skin and everything was moving, It just like, it's garbage now.
That's hilarious.
Wow.
Oh my God.
I'm just amazed. I mean, it's wild hearing you guys tell these stories, because like we're filmmakers, actors, all that, but also just we watch these movies, we admire these movies, and then you guys talk about your experiences on these sets, and it's so surreal listening to kind of the behind the scenes of how everything's made. And the amount of respect that I have for you guys, I mean, you guys put in so much work, and you can tell because, 2010s and prior, you can tell practical effects were much more prominent. And then moving forward, it was a lot more CGI. And I love that you guys and Damien kept a lot of the prosthetic element while still, using VFX when needed. And I think that's why it looks as amazing as it does, because you guys put in so much work into it. I mean, kudos to you guys. That's impressive, truly. Really? I don't know what they do without you, literally.
And I also have a huge amount of respect for all that stuff, because, like I said, I was a huge like creature feature kind of guy. I've made several like latex monster masks before for my short films. And that's like probably one of my favorite things to do ever, is just like spend a month designing a character, sculpting them out, putting that plaster on, getting that latex out, painting it, and putting it together and bringing it to life. I've acted as some of these creatures before. It's just that whole thing. Yeah, abductee. I played an alien in that I made. Maybe I should run over and grab the mask that I did.
Yeah. Go grab it real quick. Well, it's episode 201. Let's see it. Hold on. Yeah. Give me some context, dude. You got to. Holy shit.
Amazing.
Holy shit.
I know you mentioned the bar scene, and I wanted to come back to that real quick, because we actually built Clint Howard's body and the bartender's body, because they were originally going to have their heads smashed. And so we had these caved-in head bodies made and shipped out there. And then I remember talking with Heather, and she goes, "Oh yeah. Damien he wanted Art to pull out a gun and just shoot him, so we ended up just shooting him." I go, "Well, what'd you do with the bodies?" And she goes, "We didn't use them. They just, went away." So again, another example of you spend all this time and effort and you build something and everybody has a game plan and Ryan and Heather are out there waiting and ready to do this, and then all of a sudden left field comes and they end up just getting bullet holes in their foreheads.
And that was the best part is like we didn't have bullet holes because the original script, I realized 3 people get shot in it in the end. The original script had no guns.
Yeah,
and every time he added one, it was like less than 24 hours in advance. And he looked at me and be like, yeah, let's throw a bullet hole on it. I'm like, oh, what bullet hole, Damien? I have every other wound on the planet. I have towers and towers of boxes of prosthetics. Not a single goddamn one of them is a bullet hole. And I remember I tried to get some out from Tinsley's and like rush ordered them. And Brian just texted me, so I see you rush ordered some bullet holes. Did something change? And I just sent him this new size, and he just sent me a palm face emoji, and I was like, yeah. And then FedEx bought them, and I ended up putting on one of your retail transfers on Clint Howard's head.
And that's the power of editing, right? Like, because as somebody watching the movie, I wouldn't have had any idea that was kind of a late choice added in, that these people get shot and killed. So like that's pretty incredible.
I love that Damien just changes it. Like, I'm here for that. I can't imagine how hectic it is.
Let's not get too excited about changes. It's not always good.
I agree.
I just a little more notice.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not on that set. It's different. When I'm on the set, I can only imagine. But being separate from that, it's kind of entertaining to listen to.
Just don't make it your mantra. Hey, we're going to change it. Damien did, and he was successul. We can do it.
I love the idea of having like a strict storyboard. You got a strict script. You're not making any changes. If you got to make something up on the day, if something goes wrong, that's fine. But
yeah.
Right.
You have to be at Damien's level to do something like that. To be honest with you, I don't think I could walk into it and be like, yeah, we're gonna change that last minute. They'd be like, get the hell out of my face. No, we're not doing that. So you have to have some type of level of something. Max, you would kill me if I walked on set and I said we're changing this.
Oh, absolutely, dude. Especially after 17 hours on Pretty Hurts. I would have lost my mind, dude.
That was my second 24-hour pull. So.
Oh my god. Well, let's see the best from a team.
So this is a little guy named Thorpe.
Nice.
He's this goofy little alien guy that I made. I specifically wanted to go for something that you would see in like a Star Trek episode or like an old school Ultraman episode, Twilight Zone type thing, for like a more retro looking design. I got to play this character. It was really fun. It was a fun shoot. That's so cool. This is like I had this idea for like this Cronenbergian mushroom man guy. His like brain comes out and it looks like a mushroom top or whatever. The plot of this story that this was in was like these characters are like basically the subtext is that they're all high on mushrooms and they talk to this mushroom guy. And so that was another fun one. So I love making stuff like that. I have a lot of respect for the work that you guys do, of course.
Oh, I love it, man.
Well, those are so cool. They're really cool.
Let's go ahead and get into our final comments on Terrifier 3 as a viewer, of course, and then move on to our other film that pushed boundaries of horror, Cannibal Holocaust, too. Naima, I'm gonna go ahead and put you up first on the chopping block for this week because I saw this with you, and I know you adored this movie and this franchise, and I feel like you and I had like the hell like of a experience with the opening weekend of Terrifier. I mean, being able to get the exclusive interview with David at the convention, screening the event that evening, doing this episode right here even, and talking to Clint Howard too. So I feel like we got like the kind of the dream package when it comes to doing this film.
It still feels like a fever dream, honestly. Like we were so close to giving up that interview with David. We were so close. I'm so glad we stood strong and we got it. I mean, that was the best ending to that entire Nightmare weekend. And don't get me wrong, I mean, we got to go to the film premiere. He did his beautiful inspirational speech. We got to see so many horror people. We saw it on Terrifier 3 on opening night. I mean, I think, especially for me, the way you first watch a horror movie too is very sentimental to kind of how you view it. So I've been watching since I was 5, and I could tell you a handful of movies that I've watched that are horror that maybe a lot of people don't care for, but it's the way that you watch it that also makes an impression. And I think having all of that with Terrifier 3 and then going back to the first and the second, I had very high expectations for the third movie. That was my most anticipated horror movie of the year. Like was not going to settle for less going into it. And to be honest, when looking at it from just the art the clown perspective, because for me, I go to watch it for him. That's my main thing when I go to watch Terrifier, is art. You know, all the other characters are incredible. The deaths are amazing. I mean, especially gore being my thing, never disappoints. But it's about, for me, seeing the development of art. And each one, he just gets more and more entertaining, gruesome. You just never know what to expect going into these movies. And he killed it, no pun intended. I mean, it was a Christmas movie, so it was very kind of heavily centered, but it still didn't feel that way. Mm-hmm. You know, it's still one of those movies that is not stuck there. You know, it's not Silent Night, Deadly Night, or those type of movies where they're stuck in one. You know, I think that's what makes it so impactful. And man, and it was just great watching in the theaters, and just everybody there was such a vibe. I was not disappointed. I went into it, and Damien did it again. So I'm excited to see the future of art moving forward, because so far he has not disappointed me, and I don't expect that to happen in the future. So, and maybe one of these days I'll get killed off in one of these movies. That's the goal. That's the goal, man. So we'll see.
Absolutely.
But I loved it.
Everyone says that till they're freezing and shivering on the floor while they're like sticking to it, covered in blood. It's a little different.
I'm ready for it. You know, when I get there, then I can complain. You know, but until we get there, let me live in my dream just for a little bit.
Okay.
Oh man. Terrifier 3, dude. You know, I said this to David during our interview with him, and I'll say it again now. Like, not only am I incredibly proud of this movie for what it means for independent cinema, and do I have the utmost respect for not just this film, but this franchise, this series in general, as a filmmaker myself, but like, it's impressive, because truly, Terrifier 3 is up there with one of the greatest Christmas movies of all time, like Die Hard. And it's fucking crazy that those two are neck and neck for me for Christmas time. I absolutely love this movie. Watching all of these have been a blast, and have been such a memorable experience. And you know what? Like, maybe this is or isn't the case for a lot of other people, but like, for me, there's not a lot of horror films out there that are like a friend event, but each Terrifier movie, like, I affiliate with great friends each time. And that's such a cool experience to have with all these films too. So like, the fact that Terrifier 3 was something we got to see on the big screen, you know, opening night collectively as a group, we're all pumped for it, and then go on this trip to go ahead and meet everybody. Like, it was a hell of an experience like no other. And frankly, I don't know, even, you know, obviously I know we're getting a fourth film, and I know we'll see where that series goes on in the future later down the line, but like, I don't know if anything can top the release of Terrifier 3 for me personally, because this was one of the greatest releases in cinema for me as a fan and as a viewer. Terrifier 3 is a feat of not only independent films, but horror films in general. If you haven't seen this thing, watch it. It's incredible. You know, it's a masterpiece, truly. Will, what about you? Do you have any final comments for Terrifier 3?
Well, firstly, I had one more show and tell thing. So the friend that I went to go see Terrifier 3 with, she painted me this.
Oh, that's cool.
You guys can see. It's a little woodblock carving.
I love that.
I fuck it. This was my favorite scene from the second one, where he's wearing the sunglasses. It's a hilarious scene. So yeah, I have that in my living room, staring at me all the time. But yeah, she goes by the Painting Cryptid on Instagram. Follow her art. Yeah, so this movie, and one other aspect of it that I really wanted to touch on is something that I was really impressed by in this one. I really appreciated Lauren Levera's performance in this one.
Mm-hmm.
I could tell she's like getting like really like genuinely great as an actress. By the end of that movie, I feel so much for her. Like, when she's really great at just these that visceral, just like getting thrown into the action. That body acting of being in these stressful situations. Like, I truly believed, that she's going through it right now, even when it's like the little things, just like Art slapping her in the back of the head, and then like she's getting slashed and stabbed and everything. Like, she's so good at all of that stuff. And there was this one moment that I really liked early on in the movie where they reference American Werewolf in London, where she sees her friend all bloodied up at the table from the second film. And she's just holding in like all of that, so many emotions, and you see her going through it. And like, I'm expecting her to blow up, but she doesn't. She gets up and leaves and tries to de-escalate the situation and stuff. And I really liked her character in this. I like that she's a pretty good final girl. Because she's going up against probably top like 10 worst ever like villains to have to survive. Like, I would almost rather get trapped in the fucking Hellraiser dimension than like spend 5 minutes alone with Art the Clown, man. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on. And then also, we didn't really get to talk about much Victoria. Her character design is incredible, man. She's looks terrifying. I was doing the thumbnail art for this. Mm-hmm. And like, I put her in there, and I'm still finishing it up, and I'm like, I kind of want to put like a black bar over her face because she's creeping me out. Like, every time I'm doing like more editing on it, like, she's got such a great design. I could tell that it was like they kind of evolved on what it was in the first two films when you briefly see her. And yeah, just really just knocking out of the park in all ways. And what I liked about this movie like so much was took what I liked about the first one, being just Art the Clown killing people the whole time, and then having the more character-focused thing, exploring the lore. And I thought this was just a perfect blender of those two things. And I'm very excited to see what happens next with all this. So yeah, it was a great.
Will,
great
did
movie.
you see the Shining reference that they did in the beginning too? Because you brought up the Werewolf in Paris. They did a Shining reference.
I think I did remember.
Yeah,
I'm blanking. There's so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. they paid homage. I think I also paying homage will always get you brownie points with it.
Yes,
if you do it.
Yes.
Johnny, what about you, man? What are some of your final comments for Terrifier 3?
This is a sick fucking movie, man. I love it. I love it. This is watching this movie in the movie theater with a whole bunch of people that just don't know what to expect is actually an experience in itself. Watching everyone, it's an auditorium scene, so I can see everyone, and just seeing them just squirm in their seat as the movie progresses is just like an awesome experience. And it's like, man, like, and this movie made me feel uncomfortable. This movie was gruesome. It was scary. I thought putting Art in Christmas was just an ingenious idea. I'm just like, yeah. Why not put Art in Christmas? Like, that's just Art in Santa Claus. Yeah, man. Like, can we get Freddy in Santa Claus? Can we get Jason in Santa Claus? No, we got Art in Santa Claus though. I'll take that.
Yeah, for real.
Lauren, like, I want to piggyback off what Will was saying about Lauren Rivera, also as being like one of the best final girls in recent memory. I think she's come a long way, and her stunt performances in there, especially that last 10 minutes of what she had to go through. Damn, like, that shit looked like it hurt. That shit looked like it hurt. Like, I don't think she was acting. I think Dave was really throwing her around, like really laying into it. But yeah, I enjoyed this movie. I can't wait to see where this franchise goes. Damien said he's planning a 4 and a 5. I'm very curious to see where he takes this, and I'm very curious to see where Lauren LeVay's character is gonna go.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are we gonna get a depiction of hell in Terrifier 4, guys? I'm just curious.
I think so. I have a feeling. They kind of hinted at it.
We heard space earlier. And
I heard that the 4th was going to be the last one, so I'm hoping that there'll be a 5th one.
I've talked to Damien about Easter.
Yeah, which holidays are you gonna ruin next?
Well, you got the resurrection of Christ. This one is the birth of Christ.
Oh, wait, yeah.
Since you guys worked on the film, I wanted to ask, just because a lot of the religious symbology toward the end of the movie, was that on purpose or was that unintentional?
It wasn't really spoken about. It's
okay.
I think there's a lot of intention there, but it wasn't really. a storyline that he needed to spell out to the crew to get going. And we have talked about the fourth one and kind of where it's going. So I just can't tell you guys.
No, you're good.
I think we're gonna see hell, though. I have a feeling.
Oh,
I don't want to know what kind of sick twisted hell you guys are gonna come up with, man.
no,
Art and Easter would be sick, though. Honestly, Art and Easter, that'd be
fun,
right? That would be fun.
Honestly, it would make a lot of sense that you use because of all the religious significations. That would actually,
especially how the ending just goes. Like that would be the perfect jumping point.
Oh my god! Yeah, we just open up with Art hopping in the Easter Bunny outfit across the screen like Bugs Bunny.
He's got to have some bunny ears, right?
Got to.
Oh my god!
He goes to a Hallmark or with bunny suit.
Yeah, for real, for real.
Oh god, I'm excited.
Heather,
and then he goes to state.
Heather, do you have any final comments on Terrifier 3?
Oh, I don't know. I feel like we've said a lot of it, but there's also so much in this film that you can't really cover it in one podcast. I think this one was really more Sam and Lauren's movie, as much as Art is always there and he's great and everything. But like, I love that they developed them a lot more and they were amazing to work with. And seeing them on set, and they really did beat the shit out of Lauren in those final minutes. Like she came in with bruises and everything and just every day gave 100%, no matter how horribly tired she was. Like before the take, she'd just be completely dead. She's like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be alive. I just want to be asleep on a beach somewhere. And they'd call action and she'd do her little like jogging thing in place to get her energy up and just be screaming for days on end. And it was really amazing to watch.
Did she do all her stunts?
She did have a stunt double, but she did a lot of them herself.
Nice. That's
Damn.
Cool. A lot of respect for that.
Damn. Yeah. So when she's getting smacked, that's actually her each time.
That's actually her.
Damn.
Hell yeah.
All right. I'm here for it. I respect it. I respect it.
Yeah, there was one take we did where they're fighting in the kitchen and they couldn't end up using it because she was wearing shoes because they were shooting his coverage, not hers. But the Art stunt double flipped her high enough. She kicked the ceiling and then smashed into the ground, and that was actually her.
Wow.
So they threw she teaches I forget what martial art it is, but she is genuinely a badass and does so much of this herself.
Hell yeah.
I'm here for it. Fuck yeah, dude. Wow. Okay. Don't fuck with her then outside of the film. Jesus Christ. Oh man. Oh, Ryan, what about you? Do you have any final comments for Terrifier 3?
I mean, it was a whirlwind to be part of. Just in the time that we had to shoot everything, and like Christian said, a lot of the stuff was like down to the wire, coming out to us, changing things. We moved a lot of locations through the shoot. It was the hardest thing that I've been part of for sure, but I think also the most rewarding at this point because not just, I mean, it's great all the box office and everything that it's doing, but like on the other end, just for the fact of what we do, a lot of times gets CG'd over, gets cut out. You don't get to see a lot of it, or it's like there for a split second and cuts away. And it was really cool to do something that was so big that 95 to 7% of it is all there. Right? Like there really wasn't much that, a few things here and there that didn't get used, but like what was shot, pretty much all of it's on the screen. And that's really cool to actually get to see like everything you built, everything you worked on, all that hard work. And not just us on set, but like everybody at Christian's shop, everyone who was part of it. To me, it's like that's such a rewarding feeling at the end. And then to see it do as well as it's doing at the box office, as well as it's getting reception-wise from the people that are seeing it, is just, it's so cool to be part of something like that, and part of something that I hope kind of shifts films back to going a little more indie. Like, you don't have to spend $200 million on a film to do something really great and make something really cool that people like. And hopefully for horror too, that we get a little shift back to, I love psychological horror. I love a lot of what A24 does, but like, I think we need a good balance. I think we need some more things that are in there that are a little more shocking and a little more over the top, to kind of balance that out. And I just hope that this is kind of a little bit of a shift for the tide.
Absolutely. Beautifully put, too. Oh my gosh. I don't know, man. I'm super curious to see what a world will look like where the shock stuff is a bit more, I don't want to call it normalized, because I don't know if something like this could ever be considered normalized, but like where we're talking about several other series that are on par of Terrifier. It's either going to be...
It's going to be the French Extremity, except in America.
Yeah, it's either going to be beautiful or just an absolute clusterfuck of a genre, and like... Instead of the video store having the curtained off section of porn in the back, it's just like a curtained off section of every movie collector's house, so they can't even display because it's so fucked up,
The torture porn subgenre.
There we go. It'll be the torture porn, truly.
There you
go. Christian, do you have any final comments for Terrifier 3?
Oh. Yeah, I do. There's a few things. First, thanks for having me, man, and congratulations. 201 episodes.
Thank you.
That's hard work, man. So congratulations on that. Really quickly, Will, that is actually the same design for Victoria's makeup. We did re-sculpt it, but we didn't. But Damien was very careful about his IP. In fact, he didn't know that we re-sculpted it until we did, because he gave us all his original molds from the first two movies, and they weren't really going to be of any use to do a third one. So I took the decision to like remake everything. And at first, he just thought I was using his molds. So we did our job in copying it, but I appreciate it because we tried to improve it, the materials, the paint jobs, and everything else. So I first want to say thank you for that as well. As far as this movie goes, look, I think you've all said it. You've all done, a great job of articulating it. It was a fun movie. We're proud of Damien for producing this type of movie, I think, and showcasing it and having such a fan base that really is what made it successful. Look, AMC theaters and Regal theaters went to put it in if the fans weren't so, hungry for watching something like this, because if they didn't see the dollars, they weren't going to do it. But they saw the dollars, it proved to be a success, and now they have it. I unfortunately think we're going to get sort of this twisted version of what Damien's doing from the studios. I think they're all trying to figure out right now this formula. And I think we're going to get some sort of like fucked up version of it that doesn't work well, because you can't just do this. You have to be a Damien or somebody like a Damien to really, I think, produce this. But it's exciting that a project like this, and these are not movies that I typically like to do in my studio. We do a lot more character work. We certainly do a level of blood, but it tends to be more forensic. This tends to be very fun, big, over the top. Like you said, shock value on every aspect, no matter what we do. But it is exciting to see that that I think there's sort of this passion maybe that might be ignited to kind of go not back to doing practical, because practical is still very much used, but in a way of promoting something to the audience that they're really excited about seeing, which includes story, practical effects, and some shock value. I think the one thing Damien's done very well in this film isn't just the fact that he was shocking, but more of the fact that he didn't suppress the vision to do that, right? Mm-hmm. He delivered what he wanted to deliver regardless of whether it was shocking to somebody or not shocking. And that's really, I think, what I hope the industry gains out of this is, people will accept it if they want to, and those who don't won't. And so, make something, that you want to deliver to the audience, and don't water it down just because you think a certain demographic isn't going to want to see it. And I think that's what made this so successful, is he did it unapologetically. And it's exciting to be, a part of that. I've had some good fortune with my team here. We've done a lot of good films that have gotten, that have broken records. And it's really exciting to be a part of another one that has had so much success. So thanks, man. I really appreciate you having us on the show. I don't know if Ryan and Heather can stay. I have to cut out.
No, you're all
Unfortunately,
good. By all means, I appreciate you coming on here, Christian. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak with you guys and for giving your input and experience on this film. And congratulations to you too, man, because your team did an incredible job on this overall. Like, you know, like I said, this film is a feat in every aspect. So congratulations to you guys as well. Truly, you know,
thank you.
very impressive.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on here. It's really an honor. Like,
it's a pleasure meeting you.
We've been talking about horror movies all month, and really being able to like end it all with this and having these awesome guests on that worked on one of these films. It's great. It's awesome.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
Before you get ready to head out, though, Christian, where can our listeners and viewers find you online, find information for your studio, all that jazz?
Oh, wow. We have, tinsleystudio.com is our website. We have a company where we manufacture Halloween products as well. That's called Tinsley Transfers. The Instagram handles are Tinsley Studio, Tinsley Transfers, and then Tinsley MUA is my Instagram, where I tend to post more of the stuff that we're doing in the studio than probably on the studio platform. But yeah, I mean, you can. I'm easy to find. Anybody can find us.
Awesome. Well, it was great getting you on here, Christian. Absolutely wonderful. Heather, Ryan, did you guys want to stick around and talk Cannibal Holocaust? No pressure. If not, if you guys got to dip out, we understand. But
I think I got to dip out. My phone's dying here. But it was lovely talking to you all. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, Heather, where can our listeners find you as well, too, if that's okay with you, real quick?
Oh, I don't have a whole lot online. I just have an Instagram. It's heathen_FX.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, sweet.
Yeah.
Well, it was a pleasure getting you on here as well, too. Ryan, are you heading out? Are you staying for Cannibal Holocaust, my good sir?
I can stick around for a little Cannibal Holocaust.
Hell yeah.
Ryan, I knew you would.
I'm here for
Christian,
it, man.
without realizing, you kind of hinted a little bit at Cannibal Holocaust, saying how some movies, go a little much or can't really make that work.
Is Cannibal Holocaust? Yeah.
Cannibal Holocaust came out way before Terrifier.
Yeah, like I said, it's not always my cup of tea. I remember Gates of Hell. Do you guys remember Gates of Hell?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've seen parts of that.
Lucio Fulci movie?
Yep.
Yeah.
That was one of those ones that, when I was younger, Video Store, when they did have a curtain for horror movies, because there was movies like 555. I don't know if you guys remember these. 555 is like the original Terrifier movie. It was like porn torture for porn torture purposes.
Oh, okay.
It's a shitty fucking movie. Like, don't actually watch it. It's bad. Terrifier's at least good.
Yeah.
It was that. I mean, it was about cutting people up and killing them for no particular reason whatsoever. But that was early 80s. You guys talk about people, jumping ship from one film theater to go into another. I remember the first film that I went into that I wasn't supposed to was Evil Dead 2.
Oh, wow.
Oh, amazing.
And then, of course, that was a ride. That was like, holy shit, what am I watching here? This is fantastic.
Yes.
Man.
What a great
awesome.
one, too.
Yeah. Well, Ryan can share his details. He's got some cool stuff going too when he's done. But thank you guys.
Yeah, of course.
Really appreciate it.
Christian, Heather, it was a pleasure.
Good seeing you again, Heather.
Thank you both very much for coming on. Bye, guys. All right, guys. Let's go ahead and dive into Cannibal Holocaust. Dude, what a fucking great time we're having, Will. I can't believe this is our finale for Monster Mayhem.
This is great.
This is dope as shit.
Ryan, thanks for sticking around.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
We're gonna have a great time.
Now we get to talk about some more fucked up shit with you. Now you get to really see
First
how
I gotta
we-
ask, did you see Cannibal Holocaust because of your parents' video store? Was that one of the videos there?
Oh, God.
That's a really good question. I don't think I did see that because of the video store. I think that was one that I actually found on my own. Either we used to have a store called Media Play. It's like a Suncoast or like a Sam Goody, kind of like those. And they had a whole section of like unrated, like obscure, stuff that was hard to find. I think that's where I found it the first time, because I had heard like, whispers of it through like Fangorias and like other stuff where they talked about like, it's always referenced, right? It's always like Cannibal Holocaust is always a reference of like a film that goes too far or a film that's like was banned and all the other stuff about it. So I think I sought that out specifically when I watched it. And also by the time, because like my dad's video store, I think they opened it in like 83. So by the time I was around and like actually getting to pick out the stuff that I wanted to watch, that probably might not have been there. There was a lot of stuff that was like, people didn't return videos, and it wasn't like Blockbuster where they had 6 copies of things. It's like 1 copy. So even a lot of the big franchises, Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare, it's like I never saw them in order, and I never saw them complete until like years later.
Wow. Okay.
Like I saw like Nightmare 1, 3, 4, 7, like New Nightmare. It's like there's these big gaps in between. And then later when DVDs came out, like especially Best Buy used to do really great October long $5 horror deals for like all the DVDs they put up.
It's such a shame that you can't get fucking physical media from there anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
my last purchase was my last purchase from there was Oppenheimer, and they were like, yeah, they're getting rid of DVDs tomorrow, and it's like Oppenheimer's breaking records for how many DVDs they're selling. And you're getting rid of that shit already. Yeah,
but I think a lot of that, I don't want to like steer the conversation to a totally opposite direction of Cannibal Holocaust, but I think a lot of that too is like it's easier for the studios to just say, well, we'll just do everything digitally for the most part, right?
Yeah.
And then they don't care because they're getting money for it. All the digital platforms go, yeah, you can own it until you don't anymore, and then you can go buy it somewhere else because we don't care. We had your money for it. It's that same thing of like it's easier to control, but I think because of things like Vinegar Syndrome and I'm blanking on the other big one, Arrow and
Shout Factory,
and
Severin.
And Severin, and like who we've actually worked with on for some stuff before. There's this resurgence of these boutique, right, like collectors, which honestly I'm kind of fine with because I'd rather spend a little more money and get something that's like put together by fans, by people that really appreciate the films, that try to put like, whether it's recovering video from the original scans or like new commentary or deleted scenes, like they're putting effort into it, right? And one of my like pet peeves was always like, you go and buy a DVD and the special features, the trailer, and I'm like, that's not a fucking special
exactly. Oh my god.
Yeah. That's what I love about Criterion and Arrow. They always go so hard with their sets, and like I got this like it was like $100 like the Gamera series, the giant monster films that Arrow did. Absolutely superb art and insert arts. Came with comic books and shit in it, like physical books inside the set. Just so many effects.
It's the effort put into it, and it's like I'm okay with paying for something. Like the excuse was always like with VHS tapes, oh, they're so expensive because it costs so much to manufacture. But that never changed when it became cheaper to manufacture DVDs and Blu-rays, and it's like they were still charging $30 for something with no features, and I'm like, well, I'll wait a year, somebody else will pick it up, and for $40 I'll get something that has a whole second disc of features and some some free stuff, some bonus content, whatever it is. I just think I think that's a better direction. I mean, shit, who would have thought in 2024 that there'd be a resurgence of VHS tapes being produced of films
of Alien
right?
Romulus?
I was just gonna say they just announced that. Yeah, Alien Romulus is gonna.
Crazy to me. Crazy.
And real quick too, just because you mentioned it, dude. Vinegar Syndrome is, I feel like, a little bit underrated in that sense, especially now that they're doing like original stuff. One of my proudest like achievements we've done on the podcast, super fucking early on, was, I don't know if you heard about this film called New York Ninja. They dropped a while back.
I don't think so.
It's this film that was shot, I think, 1984, if I'm not mistaken. Are you pulling New York Ninja down, Johnny? You got a copy right there? Yeah, I know you got one, dude. It's so fucking great, man. Yeah, there it is. Yep, New York Ninja. It's shot 1984, and it was. Yeah. From my understanding, they put the film down for a second. There was some post-production troubles, and then they just lost all the audio. So they just said, fuck it, and never released it. And when Vinegar Syndrome's going through buying out rights and storage containers of full film, they came across it. And they owned the original scans, original negatives of it, and they're like, where's the audio? Trying to scramble and find it. And they got a hold of the original director, and they're like, hey, we want to finish your movie, like, let's work on this, we want to put the money into it. And he's like, fuck off, I don't want anything to do with this. And so and this is like during I think 2018, if I'm not mistaken. It was before COVID, because this was like their big COVID project. And so what they did was they came in and they hired interpreters to read their lips, and they wrote a script based off what they thought was being said, and then they hired voice talent to come in to dub the film, and then they hired this band called Voyager 3 to do the score for it. And it's crazy that a movie that in 2021 that came out, it's the New York Ninja, and it's like this random guy doing like almost like a Mike Tyson's Little Mac Punch-Out style like training sequence where he's just kung fu fighting and doing ninja moves in front of the Twin Towers. Like, it's
all ADR work. That's incredible.
Johnny,
That's
show the
magic.
slipcover real quick, like the open bit, because the back of it is like inside is like the villain in front of the Twin Towers. It's crazy, man. It's absolute insanity. But we're friends with the guys who did the score of that. They were like our first guest stars on the podcast.
Yeah,
actually.
that's crazy.
Funny enough. And it's crazy because like the extras that are in this film, like the production value is insane. The extras are all wearing like I Heart New York Ninja t-shirts and shit, and like in the movie, it's so corny. And then they did a comic to go with it as a sequel too. And it had a vinyl release that is a picture disc saying I Heart New York Ninja. It's wonderful. I was trying to get one of the Voyager 3 guys on this episode, but they couldn't make it. Great fucking guys though. They're awesome. Yeah, this little side tangent. Love Vinegar Syndrome. Love everything they do, because they have like this weird niche of like weird horror and erotica. You know, like I've only seen the Vice Academy and New York Ninja and The Suckling from them. Like it's just those 3 movies, totally different. All Vinegar Syndrome. Wonderful. But yeah, tying it back into Cannibal Holocaust though. This one is a weird one in terms of when I first watched this, because Terrifier is why I watched it actually. So they've been on the podcast before. Actually, I think all of you have met them. Caleb and Drake. Caleb's PA'd on everything I've done. He's worked on all my films with me. Drake's PA'd on most of them. Both have been on the podcast numerous times. They're some of my best friends in the world. And we watched Terrifier 1 and 2 at their house together. And as we're watching them, and Caleb is like, why are we watching something so fucked up? Like, this is insane. I was like, well, now we gotta watch the original most fucked up thing. Like, we're either gonna watch Cannibal Holocaust or Faces of Death, and I'd rather not just watch, like, just death for an hour and a half. Let's watch something with a plot, you know, with some substance. And so we bootlegged Cannibal Holocaust on their Fire Stick, and we got a poor cut of it. Instead of watching, and I now know the plot of this film finally, but instead of it going through the whole professor and the Green Inferno looking for the filmmakers, it opened with the mud rape scene. Like,
how do you just cold open just that? That's crazy.
Cold open. And it was the full runtime. It was like someone just recut the movie and threw it up on a site, and like 1, 2, 3 movies or some bullshit.
Oh my god.
So Caleb immediately turned that shit off. He's like, we're not watching this in my house. Like, period. It's like, I'll watch someone get their limbs cut off, their back ripped apart, and bleached on their scalped head. We're not watching someone get brutally sexually assaulted with mud and sticks and stones in my household. So that didn't happen for a long time. And I had seen Green Inferno, the remake. Whenever we first started the podcast, Green Inferno was on my stream of the weeks, actually. And I enjoyed it for what it was, but I didn't realize it was a Cannibal Holocaust remake, because I'd never seen the original. And then a couple weeks ago, as we're prepping for this episode, I actually had to fly out to Idaho, where I'm getting ready to move and this whole shit for film school. And I had the bright idea to watch this on the airplane.
No
to
fucking
Idaho.
God. Yeah. Oh my god! I literally thought of how terrifying would it be, like after watching the movie, like if you were on a plane and you look over and somebody's watching fucking Cannibal Holocaust next to you, and that was you. That was literally you. You were that guy.
That was me. So Will, as you called me the night beforehand about this trip to Idaho I'm taking, I was downloading Cannibal Holocaust.
Oh my god!
As we were on the phone. So yeah, really crazy way to watch this movie. And I think it was I think David Lynch said it or some shit. Where he's talking about if you watch a movie on your fucking phone, you're not watching a movie, whatever. This is one of the most memorable experiences I'll ever have watching this. Because I was like hunched over in my lap. The lady's like, "You want some peanuts, sir?" No, fuck off.
No, covering it up like that.
Crazy time. Will, what was the first time you watched Cannibal Holocaust? Do you remember? Was it for this episode?
No, it was about, like, it was right after I saw Terrifier. I had just watched Terrifier 1, 2, 3. The first Saw, I just rewatched in theaters. They did like a 20th anniversary rewatch thing.
Okay, yeah.
And like my brain is just thoroughly cooked. And I'm like, all right, gotta watch this movie for the podcast. And oh my god, it was, I don't know. This is an infamous movie. Yeah,
Yes.
like we mentioned earlier, it's like the director was like arrested at one point. They thought it was like an actual snuff film. They had to bring in the actors to prove that, like, no, it wasn't, like, they didn't actually kill these people. And like you said earlier, you know, it's even though like they only cut like 10 minutes out of whatever version of the movie you saw first, Max, because it's just like it's still like right off the bat a woman getting like brutally raped with a stone in the mud, you know, and it's that tone throughout the whole thing, and it is so harrowing of an experience. That's all I'll say. And you know, I'm a horror guy. I've been dealing with that my whole life at this point, watching, you know, movies that push boundaries. You know, we're talking about Terrifier. That's a movie that pushes boundaries. You know, like the first film, just cutting a woman in half, you know, crotch to neck, you know, just right off the bat. But that's a movie that is fun. Unlike this, which is not very fun. That's kind of my opening statement on this one.
God damn. So all comments going around right now.
Naima, when was the first time you watched Cannibal Holocaust? I know you're the Scream Queen of North Carolina. Was this an early watch for you? Did you watch this as a child or something for some reason?
Do you want me to delve in a little bit? Because I'm going in.
Go for it.
Okay, well, obviously being horror queen in North Carolina, I've been watching since I was 5, right? There hits a level in your life. I think I was maybe 19. I'm 25 right now for context, where you hit a level where there's horror movies that people are like, stay away from. You know, the infamous, the torture porn, those movies, like, stay away from them, you know, like the extreme type of horror. And you're like, I have to watch it because you want to be like inducted into like the horror society, you know. Horror is the most, what's the word? Loyal, like the most loyal people is in horror. And anybody that is in that knows you have to go through the rite of passage, which is Cannibal Holocaust, Cello, which is 120 Days of Sodom, a Serbian film. I think it's mostly those 3. And Cannibal Holocaust obviously was first, and this is before I heard about Green Inferno, which I also really love. I enjoy Eli Roth movies as well, but we'll get into that later. So when I first watched it, obviously illegally, streaming on God only knows, maybe like Daily Notion, 123 Movies, you know, those FF films, and everyone kept talking about this movie. So I was like, okay, I'm going to sit and watch it. And obviously it's an Italian movie. I'm half Italian, so I was like, I'm excited the most, you know, what is this controversial film? And man, I mean, this is before I watched Terrifier. This is before all of these other things. So obviously for me, I'm like, damn, this is crazy. But not in the way that a lot of people think. You know, obviously I don't, you know, if you've seen The Last House on the Left, those type of movies, you know, they revenge, you know, rape revenge type of thing. So, you know, there's rape in it, which is obviously, it's a very controversial thing in horror films. You know, there is an actual animal killing. I think that's where I draw the line, because when you're comparing it to Terrifier with the rats were never hurt in Terrifier 3. But
unless Ryan, are you going to tell us something that we don't want to know?
Okay, well, from what I understand, none of those rats were hurt. But obviously, I don't know. But then you watch Cannibal Holocaust, and yes, he did get arrested. He did pull what we now know as like the Blair Witch Project, because I think that movie came out before Blair Witch, if I'm not mistaken. It could be wrong.
Yeah. Cannibal Holocaust, by a couple decades, yeah.
Okay, and they pulled that idea of like, they want to make it look like it's actually realistic, like this was actually found. And I think that's, I guess, what inspired Blair Witch to do what they did, because he hid the actors, told them not to go in public, which is why he got arrested. Because I did a whole deep dive into it, because they thought he actually killed them. But it was not a real snuff film, but it was an animal snuff film, because he did actually kill the turtle. And there was so much controversy behind the scenes with, abusing the actual tribal people there, and just the treatment of the actors on set. And I think, again, when you do the parallels, it's so many more factors that make that movie so much more controversial, even though it made really bold choices, which both can be a really good thing or a really bad thing. And I think Cannibal Holocaust as a whole film, I think is the storyline is incredible. I think it's very brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of what we view as civilization is not actually civilization, and those that we view as uncivilized are really not. It's depending on the perspective of how you're looking at things, because you realize at the end of the movie who really was in the wrong and who was just kind of defending themselves, or what they perceive as civilization. So, and it's way more deep than that, but you get the gist of the movie. The concept was, I think, very brilliant. I think the execution is what ruined it. I believe the director is Diodaro.
I cannot pronounce for the life.
Rodrigo Diodaro, something like that.
Diodaro, yeah. Okay, yeah. Diodaro had the idea. He had the mark. His execution is what ruined it, in my opinion. And it is an international film, and there are different rules, I guess, within different things, and it is banned in most countries. But it did kind of kickstart the ideology of these controversial type of bold horror movies. So at the end of the day, there was good that came out of it, and there was bad that came out of it. But we learned a lot from the movie, and I think that's why Cannibal Holocaust is one of those movies. I don't hate it, but I also have to understand that there are repercussions for certain types of bold choices you could make depending on the actions that you portray. There's so many. There's a whole. It's not black and white for me with this movie, but I think movies like that show that movies like Terrifier work well, because you can still make those type of choices, but doing it correctly. And again, I'm not really big with rape and all that in movies. That is not really my thing. Some movies can make it work, like I mentioned, but that's not really my forte. But I will admit, the impaling, that one guy that was like impaled on the stick, that image still haunts me till this day. And then
one of the most realistic corpses I've probably ever seen in a movie.
You see?
I don't know how they pulled it off, but it looks so real. And it's also just...
You're talking about the impaled one?
Yeah.
Yes.
That is the person's on a bicycle seat with I believe, a foam top in their actual mouth. That way it's not actually weighing down. But it's a bicycle.
So I'm sitting there thinking that's like a fake body.
No, that's someone really physically sitting there.
No wonder it looks so real. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, that makes sense. That scene is still ingrained. Like it's so embedded in my head on that, because this is one of my first exposures going into these type of controversial type of movies. But then it inspired, obviously, Green Inferno, which I love. I think it's a great movie. At the end of the day, people are going to love it. People are going to hate it. I think it's just not all black and white. But I think it definitely kickstarted a lot of what we see today. And we have to give it a little bit of credit where credit is due. When you look at it. Yeah.
Okay. And Johnny, when was the first time you had a chance to watch Cannibal Holocaust? I know you're also one of the big horror buffs we've had on the podcast for God knows how long at this point.
I saw this in 2012, but I bought the DVD in 2008 because it was the 20th anniversary for it.
Okay.
And someone had released, I don't know who it is, I got the box cover up there, but I bought it at Streetlight, and because the week before, Bloody Disgusting did the 10 banned films of all time, and this was like number 3 or something like that. I was like, oh, what the fuck? And I just happened to be at Streetlight buying some CDs, and I'm in the DVD, and I see Cannibal Holocaust. Like, where? I thought this was banned. The fuck? So I got it, and then I never watched it up until maybe 2000, maybe 3 years later. I came home after a long day. I put it on, and I fell asleep. I was like, okay. I woke up, turned it off. It took me 3 tries to watch this movie. The second time I watched it, I got to the spider scene and I turned this fucking movie off, and I was like, "Fuck you!"
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I don't know. You know what I mean? Because it felt so real. Because when I was watching it, I felt this shock, and my hairs on my arms just stand up. Like I knew what I was seeing was wrong. I was like, why do I feel this way? Like, why does this make me feel uncomfortable? Because I just, something just told me that this was wrong. Like, this was just very wrong, the way they were filming it and doing it. And I'm like, okay, I'm done. I didn't watch it for another year. Up until Green Inferno came out. I was working as a bouncer with my friend George. And we were talking about Green Inferno, and he was talking about Cannibal Holocaust. And he was saying, yeah, this is supposed to be like a loose remake of this movie. I was like, you know what, dude? I have that movie. Like, I turned it off. It's like, yeah, I heard that movie was crazy toward the end. It's like, you gotta stick with it. I was like, okay. I had a day off. No one was home. Had the house to myself. Living room, big TV, everything. Popped that bitch in, and I gave it a shot. I'm like, okay. 2 hours later, I'm like, what the fuck did I just watch? What did I watch? I was just in awe, because I had, up until that point, I had not seen anything that drastic, that extreme. I was just like, what the fuck was that? Was that real? Was that? And I did research and this and that. And then I watched it again. I'm like, okay. And then I have a much more found appreciation for it now as I gotten older, because I realized what he was trying to do and what he was trying to say. And again, like to Naima's point, he didn't execute it properly because he didn't know exactly how to execute what he was trying to say. Like, he wanted to say something, but he didn't know exactly what. And this was a response to like him and his kid watching dead soldiers coming home in body bags on the news. And he was like, that's exploitive. I'm going to do something that, you know, that's critiquing the news media. And that's basically what he was doing, because these people that go to the villages are news journalists. And we've seen it in modern day where news journalists fabricate stories or events. That's what they're doing throughout the whole entire movie. And you're just like, fuck, dude, this guy's like really critiquing something. And I don't think people can get away from the animal cruelty that is going on within this movie, because a lot of people say that is a fucking major sin. And granted, that is a fucking cardinal sin in movies. Like, you don't do that. That's just wrong. But then you find out that he fed them. He fed the villagers with those killings. Does that make it any better? I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. You know what I mean? I don't know how I feel about that. But yeah, he fed the villager.
Well, and that wasn't a bit as big of a thing back then either with the killing. Like, they killed animals all the time in films. When it was like snakes, spiders, like that was kind of okay.
Yeah, but this was like a big giant turtle, though.
Yeah,
it was like it was a turtle, and I think that for me, that's what got me the most, because it was a turtle. I love turtles. I'm a Ninja Turtle fan, so like I love all these turtles. So seeing a fucking turtle being hurt, bro, is like what the fuck did turtle do to you? But
yeah, that was the first scene I think I've ever like actually fast forwarded when watching a movie. I'm very much a kind of guy that like wants to stick to the artistic integrity of a film. I will watch whatever is on screen. Even if it pushes certain boundaries, like depicting things like rape. I think that art should be allowed to explore all topics associated with the human condition. It's incredibly important to explore these things, and like one of my all-time favorite things ever is this manga from Japan called Berserk, which features a whole lot of just terrible things happening to women. And the main character who, you know, when he was a child, but it explores it in a way that it pays off from a story, and it has purpose, and it's also about healing from these things. And so like, I'm not one of those people that says, if it's featured in a movie or a comic or whatever, then it's, gonna throw it out, whatever. But
I would argue though that it does have context though, because
in this film
it does foreshadow like how horrible these fucking human beings are toward the end of the movie. It's like because at this point we don't have enough information, but when we see the rest of the footage and what they're doing, like it foreshadows like how horrible these fucking people really are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You don't want to say they kind of deserved it, but you're kind of like,
no, I'll say they fucking deserved it. Like you go around and fuck around with the natives, you're gonna fucking find out. Period.
Well, and this actually, I mean, this basically not the exact same thing, but this happened what 10 years ago, 15 years ago. That group of missionaries, Christian missionaries,
Yeah.
showed up to try to like convert that indigenous tribe, and they fucking killed them all. And I was like,
Yep.
I mean,
Fuck around and find out.
well, like, I don't know what outcome you expect when you're like, and not to say that they're uncivilized, but they're not used to what you're coming at them with, and it's no different than coming at someone who speaks a totally different language and assaulting them in their mind, assaulting them with something. Like, they're gonna react to it, you know, whether your intentions are good or not, they have no idea. So it's like I don't really know exactly what people think when they're like, it's gonna be fine. We're gonna do this and it's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
And people still don't learn their lesson. Even now, people still don't learn that type of lesson. And even movies like this, I think the problem with people is they miss the point of these movies because of the controversy behind it, which is why I say it's a gray area, because I think the message is so important. And what you were saying, Will, if there's purpose for me, if there's no purpose for those actions, then I think it's ridiculous.
Just shock value. Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, that's when I lose respect for it. But when there's purpose for it, I can understand. I'm not going to say, I agree with it, but as a cinephile, as a filmmaker, as an actor, I can understand why these choices were made. And I, like you said, I will watch it, and I will take it for the story that it is. But it has to have a purpose, unless the story is supposed to not have a purpose, and then it was implemented intentionally because of that. As long as it's something that was relayed within the story that is important, then yes, it makes sense. And for this case, it did have a significance why it was put there. And again, yeah.
The other caveat to that then is, if you're responsible with the message of it, then you also have to be responsible with the actors on screen.
Mm-hmm. And that's
that's from what I've heard. I haven't done too much research on this, but apparently it was not a very great filming experience for anybody. And you're making a film about the exploitation of Native people and about rape and women, and all of those people are still people that you exploited to make this movie.
Yeah,
so
that's the interesting part about that.
It's hypocritical.
Can I recommend the Cursed Films documentary on this film? This actually has a really great interview with the cast and the director, and they really shed some really great insight on the making of this. And the director kind of comes off as an asshole, and it's fucking hilarious. It's great. But yeah, I highly recommend watching the Cursed Films documentary. Short on this, because it will illuminate you in a different way, and you will come away with a different perspective. Yeah, I mean, he was wrong with the way he treated his cast. Even his cast and the director himself said, "Yeah, I treated him like shit," but it was part of the job. You know what I mean?
That's what they said.
I'm not a seasoned filmmaker. Like, I have like 2 shorts under my belt, but I know for a fact that if I have my actors in front of the camera, I'm not going to ask them to do something that I wouldn't do myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to ask them to do something or put them in a position where I think is going to be unsafe. But in the 80s, it was a Wild West, though. It was the fucking Wild West. And if you hear stories from Larry Cohen and from these other directors that made movies back then, they'll tell you, man, we just fucking did whatever the fuck we wanted because we could get away with it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Now you can't get away with that as much with social media, unions, etc., etc.
That's true.
Well, there's another level of it too that, like what you're saying, it's not about just getting away with it, but you got to also remember that, prior to the last 15 to 20 years, film was film, right? There was no digital recording. Film was film, and it was fucking expensive. And so, like, if you're there, especially if you're overseas, you're in this, area where you can't just, like, call and order some more reels of film to get delivered or to go pick up. You're burning it. Like, if you're not getting a take, you're burning film. You're literally burning money on everything that isn't going to get used. And I mean, you look at some directors, like the whole Kubrick thing with Shelley Duvall in The Shining, and, like, doing fucking 100 takes on something. There's some directors that are just that's them, right? That's just who they are. They're gonna make you do 100 takes because they want what they think is the perfect take. And then there's other people who, people like Larry Cohen, like you mentioned, Johnny, and it's like they knew what they needed, and it's like, but we only have what we have, right?
Sure.
We've got a certain amount of film, we've got a certain amount of money, and we just have to get it however we're able to. And so a lot of it was kind of that level of thought in filmmaking where it's like, we have to do whatever we have to do to get it because there's no more film or there's no more money or there's no more, whatever it is. So
a great example of that is El Mariachi from Robert Rodriguez, because he even talks about that as like, I had to cut like 3 different times because like I didn't have enough film to get him to jump over the railing. So I had to do it like 3 different times from shoot from 3 different angles. So like, El Mariachi is like the perfect example of like, using your film to efficiency. You know what I mean? But back to Cannibal Holocaust, I really do think this is such an important movie and such an essential watch in horror movies that it pisses me off that when I see these TikTokers and YouTubers on here talk about this movie and they have not seen frame fucking 1, why do you have a YouTube video or TikTok video that is 10 minutes long about a movie you know nothing about? Why?
You're not wrong, dude. You're not wrong at all. And I think also kind of tying back to Cannibal Holocaust too, excuse me. About why, the whole, I don't want to call it a trope, but the whole thing of, you wouldn't, making your actors do something you wouldn't do. I think that message being kind of thrown into this too is also really interesting for the plot as well. Considering, we clearly have this like college professor who is on this quest to kind of retrieve them from the Green Inferno, this forest. And then the film takes a complete tonal change once he retrieves this film and sees their corpses there, what's left of their bodies. And it's all about, preventing this from getting out as well because of these such awful acts that took place. And it's a little jarring from like an editing point of view because it just kind of switches like a drop of a hat almost. And as a viewer, like it took me out of it for a second.
It is clunky in that regard, yes.
Yeah, compared to like drawing me back in, that's when I was like, oh shit, like I see now why there is a controversy, but at the end of the day, this is a movie. You know what I'm saying? Like that is a bit of a red flag for me. But like having that commentary kind of break that wall through this film is not only groundbreaking, but it's God, how do I even word it, man? Like it's shocking to see it shown in this regard as well. Like as a viewer, like seeing all of the animal deaths and seeing him, obviously these are actors. We know this now, and obviously there was the whole huge controversy, like, oh shit, these aren't people. These people aren't alive. Like these are real fucking people. But like looking at it from a filmmaking point of view. It's like, damn, like, you really had this girl fucking naked in the fucking mud in the middle of goddamn nowhere. Like, yeah, she may not have been physically assaulted. That may not have been actual blood in that scene. She had to have gotten bit by, like, 1,000 fucking things, dude. Homegirl could have gotten, like, West Nile virus or some shit from the fucking mosquitoes out there, for Christ's sake.
She didn't even want to do it. She said in an interview, she goes, I said I didn't want to do it. He said, you got to do it anyway. Like, that's how the industry was back then.
I know.
You didn't do it, there's someone else that will.
It's
how it is.
Absolutely fucking mind-blowing seeing some of that on here from a filmmaking point of view, especially.
And
like,
it's
if you look at the
unfortunate.
horror history of like a lot of films back in the day, dude. Like Ryan said it best. They had to do what they had to do to get it. They didn't care.
Yeah, truly.
And it's unfortunate because I think a lot of this movie is kind of brilliant. Like there are certain moments that, like, just from the filmmaking perspective of like, or this is like one of the first times like found footage has ever been used, and it's so effective at making you feel like you are there, that you're in the shit with these people, like just watching these tribes just at a distance, and then seeing that gore. The gore is so realistic in this movie; it's incredible. And then there are these moments where, like, that kind of halfway through the movie, that turn that I knew all I knew about this movie was that it was like fucked up, and that was it.
Yeah.
And that it's about like cannibals eating somebody. Okay, cool. But I didn't know that this movie was going to have this theme and this message going halfway through, where it's like actually these people are exploding and brutalizing these people, which kind of eggs them on to become victims to the cannibal Holocaust. And there's one scene that was even though it wasn't like particularly violent, besides the pig that they shoot in the head, that whole sequence where they kind of rile them all up and put them in this little hut and start lighting it up on fire so they could get this fake footage, like trying to say that there was like some tribal war going on. And then right after that sequence, it's just the two of them, the two documentarians, just like fucking right in front of this entire tribe that's like huddled up against their will. Like, if you really wanted to just like put the whole movie into one frame, that's what it is. It's just these sick fuckos like exploiting and getting off on the thrill of the torturing these people and making money and fame off of it. And I thought that is such a brilliant shot. And also when it's like they find the girl on the pike, and you know the guy's like smiling, he's like and then they're like, dude, we're recording, we're filming, and he's like, oh sorry, who could have possibly done something like that? Like, those were moments that are going to stick with me forever. Just like watching this. Also, it was like, I think Columbus Day was like literally like 2 days before I had watched this, and I just have that on my mind. You know, and it's just like that whole theme of just colonization, imperialism, of genociding people, and exploiting them, turning them to slave, and it's just like all that's on my mind. I'm half Puerto Rican, half Taino, so like I know the shit that has happened and what Columbus did as soon as he got to Puerto Rico. And it's just that exploitation of indigenous people, and so like in that way, I'm like I'm there with this movie, but then it's the mood of it. And again, like I kind of opened with this, like I just watched like 8 horror movies in a row that were all pushing the boundaries of gore and that mean-spirited kind of feel. So watching this at the end of all that was a bit much for me. So I don't know, maybe that tainted some of my experience, but also, yeah, it is gratuitous at times. You know, if I've heard there's a cut that cuts out all the animal violence. So maybe that saved some of it.
There's a lot of cuts at this point, but I will say I completely agree with you on that, Will. Except for obviously your first time watching it. You know, I always say depending on how you watch it, that also contributes to how you view things. I think that's something about having that memory with it is very important. But another thing that I think you guys would appreciate is, well, I'm going to keep comparing it because it's just so much to compare between Cannibal Holocaust and the Blair Witch Project. Like with the hiding of the actors, and also picking out actors that were very like not well known, beginning in their acting careers, really did not have like they were so natural because they weren't really acting. You know, they were playing a role, but because they don't have that extreme experience, it came off very authentic. And that was something you can notice between the two movies, which I think is crazy. And they're both on footage for the most part. There's so many. Now that I'm talking about it, I'm just finding all these similarities. So I had to say it because Lord have mercy. But I agree with you 100%, Will, on everything you said in the beginning. It's very, very well put together.
Thank you.
I think my only big gripe with Cannibal Holocaust is the fact that narrative shift where we get the reveal of everything, it's just clunky as hell. Like, I don't know what they could have done better to have transitioned that at all. You know, like, it really is, like, I think, like, the next shot, he's just back in New York. Like, it's kind of crazy as soon as he finds the footage.
I just feel like a lot of that's the Italian filmmaking aspect of it, though, because I mean, legitimately, because you look at, like, Zombie, right? There's a lot of that in that as well, where scenes just stop and it's just something else, and there's no transition. And I always took that as that's just the style of filmmaking, whether it's how they look at their audience, that's fine, and nobody, you don't need the transition.
I mean, if you watch it like a majority of Giallo films too, they do a lot of that also. You know, a certain scene will start and then stop, but then later in the movie, that same scene will be like picked up again.
Yeah. So I've always taken it as that's just the style, but it does feel that way because, and I would assume because I'm gonna make an assumption that we all mostly grew up on American-made films, and that's very American, is like the transition of scene to scene to scene, and so even though it feels that way, I've always kind of just assumed that was kind of part of it, was that it was Italian, it was the international aspect.
I would agree with Ryan. Also, too, like, you gotta remember, this is the first found footage movie ever. They were just figuring it out. You know, they were just figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
I would 100% though, going back to what we were talking about before, because there are a lot of people who they know about the animal violence and they're just like, I'll never watch it because of that. And I didn't know that when I first watched it. I had no idea that it was real. I didn't know all the stuff about it. I found that out like later. So for me, it was even crazier because I'm like, wow, this is like really real looking. Like this all looks really real. And you know, from wanting to do effects even when I was younger, those kind of things is what I'm like, how did they do it? You know, and then finding out it's real, it's like, oh, that's okay.
Well, that's how you did
it. But I do also think that, and I don't know if it was intentional, but I think part of films like that where you are seeing something real happen, I don't know if it's a subconscious thing, but I think it also transitions your brain to believe more of what you're going to see later. Because that looks so real, you're kind of in it like, well, this already looked real, so everything else I'm going to see is probably going to look as real as this. If, you know, and I think that could have also been a thought, is like, if we show something real, when we show something fake, it feels less fake.
Yeah. See, personally, I don't know. Like, I never dove down into Italian cinema, so like, I have no experience watching. Like, it's just a whole, you know, like
you should watch The Beyond.
I've heard about
that one's pretty fun.
Max, delve into Italian cinema, delve into like New French Extremity. Like, honestly,
I need to, man. I get shit all the time from my girlfriend for not knowing a lot more about German filmmaking and whatnot, because she is from Germany. It's you know, that whole nationality of filmmaking is so rich within cinema too, especially the silent film era too, which is something Dakari talked about in one of his video essays, I think a year or so ago when he dropped that. See, I don't know, maybe I need to dive more into Italian cinema to appreciate that. But you're right, like from an American standpoint, it is just so clunky. I don't know what could have been done for it to have been less jarring. I don't know. And if that makes sense for you guys, then maybe I should look at this a little less harshly. But like, that's overall like my biggest gripe on it.
No, I mean, I totally see what you're saying, because this was the first Italian film that I've seen.
Okay, at least I'm not alone.
It wasn't until much later, like when I grew up, I started getting into giallo films and then Dario Argento films and stuff like that. And then I started picking up on patterns in the way that they put their films together, where it's like, oh, that's how they just put it together. You even see it in some of the Django films too.
Oh, okay. Yeah. God, dude. Oh. I need to dive into some of those Django films. I think Arrow did a nice box set of Django a while back too, going back to how we were talking about boutique releases. I need to pick up some of those. But let's dive into the ratings real quick of Cannibal Holocaust. This is what I'm super curious about, because like obviously there's such a maybe it's a hot take, but I think there's a rich history of Cannibal Holocaust, regardless of its controversy, or you know, obviously the animal cruelty stuff going on in this. Like, it is a chunk of film history. You know, like it is definitely a point of no return, I feel like, to where, you know, obviously now we of course have the pushing boundaries things like Terrifier, but even on the side of socially more acceptable things like something as simple as Saw, where we just have that kind of gore and the like capturing of images of like, humans being mutilated to that degree, and not just being a cutaway slasher like Psycho, you know. So yeah, let's dive into ratings real quick. Johnny, I'm putting you up first for this one, man, because you watched this a lot earlier than us from Galaxy of Film. What do you rate Cannibal Holocaust?
This is a 4. I think this is Naboo. This is a Naboo for me, honestly.
Okay.
I have, like, again, I said it earlier, I have a much more appreciation for this film when I initially watched it like 10 years ago or whatever. Rewatching it again, it just reaffirms that, because I see it and see what it's commenting on. The social commentary that it has is still relevant to this day. And I can't ignore that, because I think what he was trying to say back then was on point. And again, like, was it executed properly? No. Was he? But it's the thought. It's the thought that's there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. How he got to that thought, that is a different debate. You know, it's a different story.
Sure.
But I appreciate this movie. I do think that this is an essential watch, especially if you're an up and coming filmmaker. I do believe that if for filmmakers, this should be filmmaking 101 for you. This is what not to do on set. This is your don't to do on sets. Like this should be essential watch. Like you need to be responsible for your people, your crew, because they're depending on you. You're the quarterback. You're the leader. If you put them in danger, they're going to lose trust in you. They're going to lose faith in you, and they're not going to want to show up. Mm-hmm. You know, so I do think this is essential watch, not only for filmmaking, but for horror, because without this movie, do we get Blair Witch? Do we get this found footage craze that we see? Do we get this ingenious marketing ploys that Cannibal Holocaust tried to do back in the 80s? I mean, I don't know. Maybe someone would have thought of it, but back then at the 80s, that was trailblazing. That was just out of the box, and you got to hand it to him for like thinking outside the box for that. So like, I appreciate this for what it means for horror, but what it means for filmmaking as well.
Very well put, man. Very well put.
Johnny, I will admit, Blair Witch, they also mistreated their actors similarly to Cannibal Holocaust. Yeah.
Heather has openly said that on a podcast where like she said, yeah, these motherfuckers fucked with me the whole entire night when she was out there by herself.
Didn't they also screw them over, like in terms of like, they didn't make as much like money as they were kind of promised, or like they weren't signed on for whatever deals. I think I heard something about that.
Yeah, there's a whole big thing about that now.
No royalties. They got no royalties.
That's what it was. No royalties.
No royalties. Yeah. They got a flat fee. That's it.
We got to cover Blair Witch at some point on the show if we need to.
Bring me on.
Naima, what is your final comments and ratings for Cannibal Holocaust?
I also give it a 4, a Nabu as well. I think
that's the best man. Four's the best man, dog. Come on.
4's the best man. My bad.
Come on, Naima. How are you gonna be a part of the company? Know the damn rating system, homegirl. Come on.
You know, I'm just following the leader, and Donnie led us, and I trusted.
Yeah, you didn't correct me, dog. You should have corrected me.
Well, because he's the guest. I'm not gonna correct the guest, man. It's called hospitality. All right, watch Star Wars, Naima. Watch Star Wars finally. Jesus Christ. Anyways,
I did watch.
You watched The Phantom Menace, okay?
In theaters, like every person should.
Give me your rating, homegirl.
Okay, so 4 is a best fin. I give it a best fin.
Okay.
For very similar reasons. It left a legacy for horror films. It definitely paved the way for these controversial types of films that we are now able to see today. And it is very iconic because it is still talked about today, even though it was made in the 80s. And an Italian international horror film at that. Where I take my point away is the mistreatment on the set and a lot of the things that happen behind closed doors rather than the story itself, because I do admire the story and where they were going with it. And especially at that time period, it was a very progressive move. And now that I know it's the first found footage, that even doubles that. But I still have to take that point away because as an actor and as somebody in the industry, you know, that's not something I would want for myself or for my set. And so that's why I give it a best fin. But it's a memorable movie, and people 10, 20, 30 years from now will still be talking about it, as they should.
Okay. For me, this is a Hoth on the way to Naboo. My main thing is just the fact that it feels clunky. You know, maybe that's my own fault, maybe my own ignorance. I'll definitely dive into more Italian cinema after this for sure. But still, with that being said, like, I feel like there's just something that could have been there for it to be smoother. I would have liked to have seen like him go through a struggle to get the footage back. You know, like we see him get it, and that's awesome. I get that, and we see him come back with it. Let me see him get out of the Green Inferno. That would have been so interesting to see the struggle of getting the hell out of there at that point, because it was such a struggle to get to that point. And I just say that because, you know, that isn't the found footage aspect. That's finding the footage. So we could have done just a bit more, I feel like. But maybe that's just the ignorant American in me. I couldn't tell you. Maybe we'll touch back. But this film definitely is a huge piece of history. Hoth and Way Naboo. But I do like the remake as well, Green Inferno. I do quite like that. And I think while Green Inferno It doesn't have obviously the significance as Cannibal Holocaust. It does a really good job of fictionalizing the concept of Cannibal Holocaust and taking away the realism from it and making it a scripted thing. So I don't think it's a situation where, one is more superior than the other. I think they go together hand in hand very well. It's not like I'm looking at, you guys talking about Nightmare on Elm Street earlier. I'm not looking at Nightmare on Elm Street 1 and then the remake and like, oh, well, clearly one's dog shit and one's, a lot better. To me, they're just kind of equal in their own right. Where one really struggles, the other makes up for it. And where the other one struggles really badly, the other one has that significance for it. So I think you should watch both. Like Johnny said, yeah, consider it filmmaking 101 from an independent standpoint, especially from a found footage standpoint, of course. That should be, this and Blair Witch should be, the go-tos. But yeah, and I also think from a remake standpoint, if that's something you're ever interested in doing, because personally, I'm not a fan of a lot of remakes. There's a film I definitely want to remake in my filmography at some point in my life, And I do think that, you shouldn't go out and try to strive to remake Back to the Future. You should maybe remake, the smaller things like this where you could add a bit more substance to it. Or have your own take on making it a remake instead of it just being either shot-for-shot Lion King situation, or you're just kind of butchering it and making it nothing to what it used to be. So I think in both aspects, Green Inferno and Cannibal Holocaust are both like filmmaking 101. But yeah, that's my long-winded review and answer for that. Will, what is your final comments and rating for Cannibal Holocaust?
Yeah, I definitely need to check out Green Inferno because I actually do kind of unironically love the story and like plot structure of this film. Mm-hmm. Like I think like what it like we talked about it already. Just like the way it just halfway through it flips on its head, and it's like at first you're supposed to feel bad for these poor white people that go out there, and then you find out, oh no, they are monsters. They are literal demons. And they, it's debatable whether a lot of the things that happened to them may have been warranted as a response. And I think that, yeah, at the time, that's a very groundbreaking and kind of progressive idea. It's wild. Like I've never seen like a movie at that time period really make that type of critique in such a harsh way. And I have to respect it for that. And the filmmaking side of it, like it feels so real. It pioneers the genre of found footage film, and like the effects are great. The gore stuff is awesome when it's not real animal gore. But then it just ends up, it hits a certain wall where I can't really respect it so much on these levels because it is a hypocritical film. And it's also, I can't just respect the movie on these aspects. I also have to take into account my own personal enjoyment. Would I ever want to rewatch this film? What did I, I love it when a movie gets emotion out of me. I will always respect that. But this movie was just kind of a miserable experience after a while.
Sure.
And that's just the one kind of emotion I don't really want to feel when watching a movie.
Yeah.
It kind of put a bad mood over the rest of my week. I was like, oh god, it just was something icky about it. It really does feel like you're watching like a snuff film. And yeah, that makes it like a Hoth for me. 2 stars. If you don't know, it's like I have to respect it on so many levels, but it's also just so many things going wrong with it. That's why I'm curious. I'm curious about Green Inferno because that seems to remove a lot of the things that I don't like about this movie while synthesizing what I do like. So I want to check that out.
I was going to say sorry. The Green Inferno is a fun watch version of Cannibal Holocaust, but still tries to keep the same-ish storyline, but not as, I would say, drives it home the way Cannibal Holocaust. I think you would enjoy it. I definitely want to hear your opinion when you watch it.
Yeah, it's got Judy from Spy Kids. You see his dick in it.
Yeah. You don't see it.
You see his dick in it. It's crazy, dude. It's really weird. It's just like he's not getting attacked or anything. He just camera cuts and like swoops over, pans his dicks out. It's like, all right,
well,
dude.
there's a lot of dick in this movie too, so that's
yeah, man. But like when I watched Green
that.
Inferno, I think I just rewatched Spy Kids 3D. So I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, awful. Ryan, what is your final comments and rating for Cannibal Holocaust, my good sir?
I've been kind of going back and forth listening to all of you give yours. It's not quite a 3. It's not quite a 4. I'm gonna give it a 3.5. I'm making up my own rating here. Only because like I do feel I'm 100% on board that it is a must watch. I don't think just horror film, but I think it is a must watch as a filmmaker. You should see it because for all of its wrongs, it gets a lot of things right. And even in terms of marketing, right? Like that's I wouldn't doubt in 1,000 years that's where Blair Witch was like, this is the greatest marketing idea ever because let's market it like these people actually disappeared instead of somebody just thinking it and suing us and like taking me to court. Like let's pose it like it really happened and let's do all this. So I think birthing the found footage genre is kind of huge, right? But it does have a lot of issues, and I'm leaving aside the behind the set issues because I've worked with a lot of people who have been working in the industry for 30, 40 plus years, and there's a lot of things that I've heard about a lot of stuff that I love that's like that's disappointing. That's really disappointing. But I also, from doing this now for over a decade, you see that there's some times where it's not so much a choice necessarily of always like, oh, we're not going to do right by the actors or we're not going to do this. It's just sometimes things happen the way that they happen, and especially with stuff like the horror genre, it's always lower budget than everything. You're not talking about studio films. When people get like mistreated on like big budget like studio films and shit, I'm always like, not there's ever an excuse, but there's really no excuse when you have money, you have ability, you have people. Like, but there is, going back to talking about people like you talk about like Lloyd Kaufman and Larry Cohen and all these like Don Coscarelli, all these people who they were just making their own movies, and I'm sure there's tons of people that were unhappy on the set. I'm sure actors were unhappy. I'm sure crew was unhappy, but you kind of like. I almost have a feeling of like you can't have a happy, fine set and have a good product at the end of it, right? Like there has to be strife, there has to be sacrifice, there has to be some shit. Like there's always going to be. You're not going to be happy every day because I don't think that end product would show passion. Like passion is inherently like when you get passionate about things, you lose sight of some things, and so like. What Johnny was talking about, the cursed films, I want to watch that because I haven't seen that. That's the second season of it, right?
Yeah, it's the second season. It's
yeah,
on
so
Shudder.
I haven't watched the second season of it yet, but I really want to because I'm interested in kind of seeing the director and the actors talk about it. But to me, it's like I try to take a lot of that with a grain of salt when it comes to filmmaking because it is such a passionate thing, and sometimes people do get a little lost in the passion and aren't focusing. I don't want to say on what they should be focusing on, but they're not focusing on everything else around them. It's a lot of times it's like tunnel vision. But it's good to hear that he at least like acknowledged like, yeah, I was kind of shitty to them, and like there's a level of like at least being able to look back and go, I could have done things differently versus like you have other directors that are like, that's how I work, that's who I am, that's it. So but I mean it's a quintessential film to watch. There's so much to be learned from it. The subtle, well, not towards the end, but the subtle idea that like what you're watching while they're trying to portray the tribes as uncivilized, it's completely opposite. The tribes are living how they've always lived. They're living to live, right? And they're the uncivilized ones coming in and exploiting them and doing all this stuff, which is still like everybody said, still today is the same thing, right? Like the people who are less fortunate are always being exploited for the people who can gain from it. And sometimes that's twisting the truth entirely. Sometimes it's, we're completely being lied to. So I think there's a lot to learn from it. I haven't seen The Green Inferno. I put off seeing it because I was just like, it just looks like a rip on Cannibal Holocaust.
Yeah.
But with what we talked about with like reboots and remakes and all this other stuff, I think that the idea behind it was kind of smart in terms of you've got a movie from 30 plus years ago, we're gonna remake it. I think what falls short with stuff like that usually now tends to be that like Cannibal Holocaust is a well-known film. Most people, especially in the horror community, have seen it, and it still holds true to a lot of things. Whereas, like, you look at, like, I'm trying not to go off to too much of a tangent, but, like, you look at, like, what I think are 3 of the best remakes of all time, which are The Fly, The Thing, and The Blob.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think anyone. Yeah, no argument here.
I agree with you. 100%.
But the genius of that is they were remakes of films that had a great premise and were just really poorly executed for the most part, mostly due to funds and finances, and like monster movies weren't, they had no money, especially back in the 50s and stuff. So like, but I think that's why those worked so well. It was taking that and going, let's do something modern, let's do something that people are gonna really resonate with, and they weren't available, right? Like it's hard now when everything's available at any time. You could buy it on physical media, you can watch it on streaming, so everything's still in the pop culture, even if it is 40 plus years old.
That's true,
at this point. Whereas like back then, you didn't have an option to watch it unless it was playing somewhere. Maybe it was on TV. Most people in 83, 84 didn't have VCRs, and VHS tapes were like crazy expensive. Maybe you rented them or rented the VCR at the video store too. So I think that's changed. Like now they're rebooting shit that was done 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And you're like, I own that DVD. Like I own that DVD. It's not.
They're remaking fucking Harry Potter into a TV show.
Oh my god!
Like, are you fucking serious? What are we doing here as a culture and society?
For me, one of the things that I forget who said it, but it's a thing that's always stuck with me, and I think about it all the time. Is that if you want to learn filmmaking, don't watch films you think are good. Watch films you think are bad, and figure out why they're bad. That's because that's what they did wrong, right? So I think for things like Cannibal Holocaust, it's like watch it to take away all the things that it did right. Acknowledge the shit, like obviously the animal stuff is like, that's the reason that there's a whole group associated with that, with motion pictures now, and they go through all that. And yes, no rats were hurt in Terrifier 3 at all. Actually, funny enough, they had a ton of rats that the Wranglers brought. Most of them, they were too cute to be. They were like, they're not like scary looking. They're like really cute rats. So. But no, they were fine. They nobody hurt them at all. But yeah, take away the things that that it did right, and look at the things that it did wrong, and figure out why those didn't work, and change that, do something different with it.
Yeah. Ryan, that was so beautiful. That was so perfectly, beautifully said. I think you even changed my mind on well, not but you opened my eyes on a couple of things that you said, and you're right. So I wanted to say thank you for sharing that. Yeah. You changed my mind on a couple things.
Oh, well, hey, love to hear that.
Man, Will, we really found like the greatest fucking way to end Monster Mayhem, dude. Truly. Like,
yeah,
I'm glad
it kind of worked out.
Around.
Yeah, we were gonna do originally. It was like gonna be Halloween 2 and 3 today, but I think we ended up saving the best for last. Really here,
truly,
having like all these guests on celebrating our 201.
I actually had a question about that. Was there a different movie for the Halloween for the season of the witch? Or was it always Halloween 2?
Oh, it was always Halloween 2.
It was always gonna be 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Okay. It wasn't Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, right?
No, dude. No, fuck out of here, Johnny. Come on, man. You just pissed me off.
We had a whole conversation about that.
we literally did, yeah.
That was the only reason why I wanted to be on it, because I thought, like, Rob Zombie's age 2? What? I'm in. Let's fucking
You know what,
go.
Johnny?
We'll do that sometime.
Bro,
me and Johnny will
talked about it last week. I talked about it last week. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is the worst fucking thing I've ever seen in my goddamn life, dude. I hate that movie to fucking death. I hate Rob Zombie as a director.
Okay, don't go that far.
Hold on real quick. No, Rob Zombie is a trash director. I'm sick of his awful wife in these fucking movies too. I can't stand Rob Zombie as a musician either. I'm sick of seeing Sherry Moon's flat ass in every fucking thing he puts, dude. All right, I get it. Tim Burton wants his wife and everything. I'm okay with seeing Bellatrix Lestrange.
Tim Burton doesn't make his wife the lead, so you got to give him that.
Couldn't give a fuck, dude. Like, she's a dirty stripper in fucking Halloween 2. With no ass on top of that, dude. With no... I could go off all day. I don't know why the fuck Weird Al's in that movie for a cameo. Chris Hardwick's in that fucking movie. They rip off the original Return of the Jedi ending. Fuck Halloween 2 Family Matters, dude. No.
Did we just talk about this?
H2 is better than Halloween Ends, bro. Hands down.
Okay, dude. Yeah, it's two steaming piles of dog shit next to each other. Like, which one smells a little bit better, dude? No, and it still doesn't. Okay, Halloween Ends is still trash as well. Like,
it is horrible.
You have Corey Cunningham punk Michael Myers like that, bro.
God,
what the
fuck? Corey Cunningham, bro. Johnny,
Max, did we not have this conversation? Like,
no, hold on, stop. So
we were scheduling.
Next year, we were going to do Halloween 4, 5, and 6, because we finally did Halloween 2 and 3, because we already did the original with ends, and we already did kills. Johnny, next Monster Mayhem, we will be doing the 2 Rob Zombie Halloween films, okay? And you'll be on the episode, and you're going to have to I'm going to get a fucking, like, hemorrhoid from talking about that shit, dude. Like, I hate that movie to death, man. I fucking hate it to hell.
Love it, man. I'm all for it, dude. All for it, man.
My mom went to a Rob Zombie concert a couple years ago. I didn't answer her text for like a week afterwards. I was so pissed. Like, I was furious. Matter of fact,
Super Beast is a pretty great song. Come on.
She also pre-ordered the 3
That
from
whole
Hell
album's great.
Blu-ray. I was like, get the Mom, you're about to be disowned. No. Don't ever try to convince me to watch House of a Thousand Corpses ever again. That's dog shit as well. Nah, man.
That's a staple for Halloween, bro. I'm watching that on Halloween night.
Nah, dude. I'll watch
That's
anything
my
else.
movie.
He doesn't like it.
Max always comes out with
like it. I've already tried to convince him. He doesn't like it. I don't know what to do.
It's not a good
Devil's Rejects? You don't like Devil's Rejects?
No.
I love Devil's Rejects.
I'm
Devil's
sorry,
Rejects
guys. Hate me all you want. Hate me all you want, man. I will
Best
not.
usage of Freebird of all time. Maybe next to Requiem, but it's still probably one of the top best uses of Freebird.
I don't know, dude.
When me and Max were at Nightmare Weekend, we were talking about, like, literally talking about specifically the Rob Zombie movies. That's why I had to bring it up. Exactly what he said to you is we had the same argument, Johnny. Because I don't like the Halloween ones. I don't like Rob Zombie's Halloween movies, but I do like Rob Zombie as a director. I like his movies. We had this whole conversation.
I prefer H2 over Rob Zombie's remake because I feel like he didn't make his movie. I felt H2 was more his movie and more of the story he wanted to tell. I honestly believe that if he gone on to do his own movie and not remake John Carpenter's movie, it would have been a better movie.
We're gonna be here all night.
I was going to say we were ending on a high note, but we didn't.
We ruined it.
We just got ruined it, dude. Jesus
delete
Christ.
the channel.
Yeah,
Ryan, I'm sorry you have to deal with all of it. This is a regular conversation that we have, by the way.
It's kind of a shame too because I really wanted to hear your thoughts on Season of the Witch, bro. Because I know you fucking blow a gasket watching that movie.
I like
we had a good.
I interviewed Tommy. He did not want to interview him because he goes, I can't stand Season of the Witch, and I said,
that's
I'll do it because I
that's
like
not
the
what I
movie.
said. I didn't like the movie, dude. I don't
That's
care
exactly
about
what
it.
you said.
I just don't care about
That's
Season
not
of the
what you
Witch.
said. You goes, I don't even want to interview him. I don't even like that movie. And I went, well, I'll do it.
Well, yeah, I don't want to interview. I don't know the fucking movie. I haven't seen it. I've seen the new ones. Yeah. Anyways, but yeah, Season of the Witch. Dude, listen to the episode. It's good. I feel like we had a mature conversation on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it just isn't my cup of tea. I respect it. It's different. I just don't like it. You know, I respect Season of the Witch. I don't respect whatever the fuck Rob Zombie shit out that day, dude.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Awful. I'd rather someone a Clockwork Orange my ass to the Halloween Resurrection. All right.
Oh my god.
For a week straight than ever watch Halloween 2 Family Matters again, dude.
How about this? Do we all agree that H2O was at least a fun watch?
Oh yeah.
No.
Oh, H2O.
No, garbage. H2O is garbage.
Anyways,
a fun watch.
Anyways, we will be talking about all
there was
the
nothing
Halloween
fun about
movies
H2O. I mean, have
another
you
time.
seen Josh Hartnett's haircut in that? That shit's atrocious.
We will be
David
talking
Tucker
about the
again.
rest of the Halloween movies another time. We will be getting to all of them at this point because there's just so much of them. And then once we're finished with Halloween, we'll finally dive down another franchise, whether it be Saw, whether it be Nightmare on Elm Street, whether it be Friday the 13th, who fucking knows? We'll cover them all at some point because guess what? I'm making you guys do this shit till we're 90. Don't forget that. So we got plenty of time. You think 201 is impressive? Just you fucking wait, guys. I'm squeezing another 1,000 out of you at least each.
Ryan, please come back and join us. Please.
Yes, this was. Thank you so much for coming here and giving us your insight on everything. It's been great. This is such an awesome experience. This episode.
Yeah,
so nice.
It was a blast talking Cannibal Holocaust with you, bro. It was
Absolutely
fun. Great.
Absolutely. I'm Ryan. Usually we're a bit more collective with special guest episodes, so thank you for putting up with our insanity for this one. Truly,
It's all good. It's been fun.
but it's been an absolute pleasure. Ryan, where can our listeners find you online and find your work as well?
So my wife and I have our own effects company that's Little Shop of Gore Effects.
Okay, sweet.
So it's Little Shop of Gore FX.com. Little Shop of Gore FX on Instagram. We also have a side company that does we sell masks and sculptures and all kinds of stuff, which is just Little Shop of Gore on Instagram. And then I have mine too, which is Ryan Keith Ward. It's just my name on Instagram, which is a little bit of behind the scenes stuff, makeup things, and just some personal things as well. But that's I think that's pretty much it for us.
Awesome. Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. And Johnny, of course, we're going to get you on for, about 800 more of those 900 episodes. Trust me. We'll get you coming back around, my good sir. We've had you over here for about 100 episodes yourself, too, almost now. I think
wow.
I think your first episode was the Creed trilogy?
Yeah, Creed trilogy.
Yeah, dude. That was 116, I think, dog. That was crazy. Whew.
I was, man. This was fun, man. This has been fun being a guest on the podcast, man. Chatting up movies with you guys. Always a highlight of the week, so I appreciate you guys having me on and dealing with my insanity and my batshit takes. I appreciate it.
Brother. Where can our listeners find your work too, Johnny? Plug them. I know they're already following you. I know, of course, they better be at least, but where can they follow you just in case they're not?
You can follow me on TikTok, YouTube, and on Instagram, all on Zuko's Corner. You can follow me on YouTube, also on TVZ Studios, where I upload all my short films and documentaries. So add, follow, comment, please. Holla at your boy.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Whew. Wow. God, man. Oh, God. Well, Naima, it's been real. We've been going through Monster Mayhem this past month for 6 weeks. We've tackled this theme series we've been going on through. And again, Will, congratulations for having him on for this.
Mm-hmm. And we're kind of doing a Monster Mayhem prologue. Or epilogue, rather. Next week, we're going to be doing a Godzilla anniversary episode for LFG. So we're just going to be talking. That's our plan. Yeah,
that's the plan. I was about to say, we got to talk about that because we got some cool stuff, very, very cool stuff lined up for you guys. So hopefully it's next week. But if it's not next week, trust me, it's going to be worth it because there's a very special guest coming for that we're working on for you. So we can't say anything just yet. Don't more importantly because the person also cannot say anything, literally. But we got some really good shit coming on with you guys for Godzilla. So stay tuned for the anniversary next month. I know all of you are gonna look forward to it. But yeah, dude, we've got so much accomplished this year. This is another accomplishment for us, of course. And check out Pretty Hurts dropping this week right before Halloween in the last minute. Can't wait for you guys to see our first venture down to horror. Me and Naima and I, of course, since Will's already beaten us to that at this point. Which also check out The Artist 1996 if you haven't already. Link down below to the analog horror film here at Galaxy of Film. It's always the best here, of course. But yeah, guys, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for sticking around for 201 episodes. Not only that, but that 201 consecutive weeks, dude. We haven't missed a week since we started this show. It's insanity. Like since December 22nd, 2020, we've been pushing through this show. I think we're at like 80 episodes almost for LFG. A full season now into season 2 of Awards Bait.
I was just scrolling through, and I my first episode when I was a guest host was like 125.
Yeah, man.
Like, so that's crazy. Already been a while. Jesus Christ, yeah.
Yeah, dude. And then like obviously, you know, Galaxy Film Live episodes are a part of the main show, so I don't really categorize those separately. But you know, also we did the Star Wars Celebration series, which was like 4 or 5 episodes recapping the convention back in California. But yeah, and then the new series coming up soon next month, Recent Views, will having dropped in the next week or so, just because we wanted this series to kind of breathe and also get Awards Bait started off. So check that out on our new Patreon coming up very soon. But yeah, man, got tons going on with the podcast, tons going on with the film side of things. But thank you so much for sticking around for 201 episodes, and I can't wait to have many, many more. You know, it's been an absolute pleasure. And it's been one of my greatest achievements in life is to have brought this community together and to have started this podcast. And, you know, I've been at some really fucking low points in my life while doing this show. But, you know, every week this has kind of been my light in the end of the tunnel. And at my absolute lowest, you know, when as early on as when it was both Danilo and Dakari, you know, this has been my therapy in a huge sense. So thank you all for being here to listen to us love and hate and just complain and rave and bitch and praise all these wonderful and terrible movies that we've gone on, and TV shows as well too. It's been awesome, and I love hosting the show, and I can't wait to do it until I'm dead, dude, because we're doing this for forever. So thank you all so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us an iTunes or Spotify review. It truly does help with the show much, much more than you can imagine. And we will talk to you guys next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.